Craft Growers Network, and I'm joined today with my co-host Notso Dog, and then special guest Noel, and another special guest, Ben from IC Collective. So before we get started, I just want to say I am so happy to have Ben on the show today. I know the show is supposed to be about you, Noel, but like the connection that I have with Ben is just unbreakable. And we don't, even though he's my neighbor, I never see him because he's constantly running to Illinois, and then we're busy with our families and stuff. But I'm really stoked that Ben got to join us today. And I'm hoping, and today we're not going to be telling too much of Ben's story, maybe just a little bit, but I'm throwing it out there right now, and I want everybody in the chat to demand that Ben come back and tell us his story, because on top of everything, our story is intertwined, you know, and his story, my story is part of his story, and his story is part of my story. And
we've known Ben forever.
I mean, Ben is truly an OG in this whole thing. I don't know.
Literally forever, like decades.
Hey, I appreciate you guys, and I'm glad to be here. I wouldn't do it for anybody. Don't usually like to do these things, but Gabby, you guys are all legends. So let's get to it.
If we're legends, then you're a legend, right?
And if we're talking about Headband and you got Noel, well, then I'm here to support that, because the later years of that, I know about it.
Nice.
He does. That's what Ben and I's story is nicely intertwined in that way.
It is.
So let me also start by now giving Noel a proper introduction. And it's really funny because I've met Noel, I don't know, it's like 20, 30 years ago that we met first. We have a mutual friend, David. And, you know, so we met one time, you know, David introduced us. And then
to 2000, somewhere in that time.
And then the Emerald Cup, Noel used to have a company and a product called Nectar's Collective and the Nectar. What was the product called?
Nectar's Collective. What was special, what I called it, you know what's great about this too is that Ben's on the phone with us on this, because when I split up with my old business partner, Eric, who I absolutely love, we're still great friends today, that was Holy Water. And
Holy Water.
And I said to Eric, I won't use that name. That is your name. That is you. And Ben was over, like days later, and we're sitting around my table talking about it. And Ben was like, why don't you call it Terp Juice? I was like, well, that's pretty good. He's like, you can use that. I was like, I will use that, actually. And so that is what we called it. And this is it. You know, it's in a, I think some people call it HGFSC now.
Can you show us how liquidy it is? Can you like turn it a little bit so we can see the...
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so it's like terp water.
All right, and it tested like
juice.
50 to 60% THC on average and 20 to 40% terpenes in this form.
So just so you know, Noel, I hope that we're connected to the point where I'll be able to acquire some of that shit from you, because like I said, that brings back memories of like the Chem 91 and I mean, like, it was just so amazing and so unique at the time to see a concentrate like that people just don't know. I mean, there was
still don't really know.
I stole Noel's term because it's just like licking the plant.
I stole that from Eric.
Well, thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
The funny thing is when Gabby told me that Noel and Dave went to high school together.
We didn't go to high school together. I met David when he was a teenager,
when he was a teenager,
I was a freshman in college. That was in Rochester, New York.
I've known Dave and his brother Joshua, like, as almost as long as I've known Gabby, and like forever.
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
Forever.
I mean, David and I lived on the same mountain.
You know,
just before I left California, he still lives there.
Yeah,
yeah.
So, you know, yeah, it's funny how.
World.
Yeah, that's why these stories are kind of it's you can have all sorts of people on it, because we all kind of touched each other here and there in our histories and knew each other and met each other, just living our lives, right? I was just another. I discovered California doing Fish Tour in '95, and saw the medical marijuana movement there, and was absolutely like, I want to do this, and I moved from Rochester to California in '98. And started, and David moved at the same time as I did, when I moved to California, I brought a strain called Hindu Kush with me. It was a Rochester strain. At the time, it smelled like a skunk. We lost it there. I let it go stupidly. But I believe that a good sample what that Hindu Kush is like is the Jaeger in Oregon. It has that Hindu Kush in it. That's the same Hindu Kush. And then I gave up all my strains in New York when I moved to California, because I was like, I moved to California, I'm gonna have the best strains ever. At the time, Snowbud was really popular. And so I was trying to get cut to that, and we had brought the Hindu Kush with us, and that was a great one. I didn't realize how great at the time, but I let it go. And we went through a bunch of different cuts from the Bay and Oaksterdam, and I was getting sick of those. And I asked one of my dear friends from tour, let's call him the Dark Knight, if he could hook me up with someone from the East Coast and get me sour. And he introduced me to a guy that I call HWC, who's lost to time. I have no idea where he is now. That's why I call myself the Custodian. Because HWC came, and he was one of those guys that bought weed from Greg at the time that he was selling it with the seeds in it. So he had his own sour diesel. That was argued amongst all of the people that had the seeds, let's say, all argued about whose sour diesel is the best. His was really good. And the Dark Knight introduced me to him, and we both lived in California. And so I brought sour diesel there in like 2000-ish. And HWC is just like any of us that love cannabis to the death. This is our passion, this is our thing. He was so into it. And I love that about him. And what he had done in his past was go to Amsterdam and try to win the Cannabis Cup there. So he had gone to Amsterdam in the mid-90s and grew a round of sour diesel there, but before he could enter, he got busted. And they kicked him out of Amsterdam. And he came to California. What that did is he met a bunch of guys from Amsterdam that were doing genetics down in LA. And so he would go down, and I had like a group of people, a network of growers that had moved out to the West Coast from different areas, that we were all growing really nice weed at the time. Ben said to me once, "You were a great 90s grower." I was like, I'll take that. That's good. That was great.
Is he implying that you suck now?
I don't know. I'm not good. I'm not even close to what people do now. The game has changed so much. I could grow the weed. Don't get me wrong, but I recognize that things have changed.
2004, 2006 era.
Yeah, I was good at it then. Yes, and I taught a lot of people in Sonoma County how to do all the thing. And so we were doing so good at that HWC went down to LA and had some breeders from Amsterdam that were giving him cuts before they put him out. And so a couple cuts that we got before we got Headband was Sage and Sour was a really good one. I think there was a Northern Lights one that he gave to us too. But then he brought us this cut from that turned out to be the Headband. And he brought it up. We had it on the mountaintop. I lived in Sonoma back then. And we started growing it as a group of people. And it was awesome, obviously. You know what it is, right? If you had it, you know what it is. It is the Kush of Kushes, right? When there was only one OG Kush. And so this is where that story is very close, right? There was no fleeing it. But what he said to me about the naming was like, listen, I got this. It's an OG Kush. It's the best OG Kush I've ever seen from LA, from my people there. And I don't want to call it OG Kush because there had been a murder in their family recently, OG Kush people. So he didn't want us associated with the OG Kush crowd down there. So because no one had it, it was still very, very rare in Northern California. And so he's like, I want to call it Headband because it reminds me of the Headband in the 90s from the East Coast. I said, of course, we'll call it Headband. That's what we'll do. Great. And as we had it, he was very selective about how he wanted to give it out. And his methodology of that, he was a devout deadhead, by the way. How his methodology was, people would ask and ask and ask, and I respected his wishes. And he said, invite him over, have a barbecue or something. We're into barbecuing up there. And don't tell him who I am. And when they come over and hang out and converse and everything, and if he liked their vibe, he'd say, give it to him or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I respected that. He did suddenly disappear on us. I haven't seen him since.
Whoa.
I believe he moved to Oregon. He's never checked. And after all of this time and all this media and all this hype about cannabis, he's never showed his face again. And so that's why I say that it's not my cut. I am the custodian of that cut. I kept it alive. I was blessed with it. I spread it to the people that he asked me to spread it to. And it spread it to some more people after he disappeared in my community. Right? That's what I did for it. 2 of those people were from Humboldt, Piper Dan and my friend Chachi, both glass blowers, still do it today. They took it, they named it the 707 over time. Chachi said, asked me if that was okay. I was like, dude, yeah, you guys go for it. I love that. Great. You know?
I think that might be something that's really important to mention, is that everyone wants like specific lineage now and all this different stuff, and they don't realize how common it was that a strain might get a new name with every new group. It like we would give nicknames, you know, and like this group would get it and they would call something this, and then it would go over here and they would be like, oh, I'm gonna call it that. And it was just kind of like that was normal, you know. I think it was normal. So like a lot of times people think it's like nefarious or something, but I think it was like just different people. You know, there's a million old strains that like if you got it from these dudes, it would be called this. But if you got it from over here, they might call it that, you know? Like the puck or skelly, you know, or hash plant or something.
There's also some hoarding going on to this story though, and not so much hoarding, but Noel just said it, right? Like he was the custodian and he got to choose who he gave it to. So like if you didn't know Noel, which, you know, the Grateful Dead is a part of this story too, big time, right? That's how we kind of all know each other, and like we're talking about all living in the same area and stuff, but we mostly saw each other at shows and smoked the weed and talked about the weed. And a lot of people wanted these plants like really bad, and so they would often take one that was similar or a bag seed and change the title, right? I just saw a comment come up that said 818 headband going on right now. Yeah, you know, I was in, you know, shout out to Maid Gallery in Illinois. I hang out there sometimes. He keeps the community together. And this kid comes in with, I have headband. And I'm like, oh, let me see. And it was the farthest thing from headband I've ever seen. It was good weed, but it smelled like purple weed, you know? And like, that just goes to how popular and how wanted these cuts are, that in 2025, they're still, you know, saying this is headband.
Everyone I knew that had the headband cut, it all came back to this one name, which was Noel.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like, it didn't matter who I found out had it. If they had the cut and it was that cut, they would start telling me the story of how they got it, and this name would come up. Noel. It was Noel.
Yeah, and if you knew Noel, you had the right cut and you knew what it was.
Noel was the guy. You know, if you didn't know his name, you probably didn't have the right cut. To be honest.
Wow.
You know?
It's 100%.
I'm dead serious, dude.
That's wild to me.
It was literally like, and that's why I didn't say your name, because I was like, I don't know what you're up to. Like, you know, it was just like, you know, we used to call it like, oh, like if it came from Noel, that's how we know. Like if you name dropped that right name, then it was the right cut, probably. You know?
That's a wild reflection of the time.
And the other thing I should mention real quick, I think I mentioned this a little bit on the previous one, but I didn't mention Ben's name. I think I mentioned that like that cut was so strong that certain people didn't like it, and it would give them anxiety or nausea or what have you, you know? And one of those people was Ben's wife. He used to tell me these stories where like she did not like to smoke it, especially in public, because we'd be at an event or at a party or something, and it would like change her whole day. She'd green out a little bit and like not feel comfortable. And so we all had good weed, we thought, but the headband was strong. Like it was really strong in a weird way. It's not the prettiest Kush by any means. There's lots more silvery, like gacked out, crazy looking Kushes, and it might not smell the absolute best, like compared to some other ones, but as far as like effect and good weed, oh my God, It was different.
I actually thought you could grow it really shitty and it'd still smell good. Because
Oh, it smells good. Don't get me wrong.
you know,
Like
it
I'm not
still
I'm
smells
not
like
saying
pretty
it's
good.
bad, and either I don't think it
Yeah.
looks ugly, and I don't think it smells bad. It smells like
The yields were low.
what I think is that a lot of the oldest Kushes were a little not as visually appealing as some of the ones that came later. Maybe I should say that. But they tended to be much more potent. You know?
I
That
didn't
cut
like it
has
as a
rare
cultivator.
potency.
I didn't like it as a
Gabby's
cultivator
laughing.
because the internodal lengths were like far apart, and it was weak in nature, and I tried to breed with it for many years straight, and never really got anywhere. It always seemed to just like kind of recede when you crossed it with something, and they started crossing with all the fuels, and it just didn't work either. So
Hey, I want to throw a comment in there. So the first thing is the description that, you know, was given that the headband would make you throw up reminds me of one of my favorite cannabis descriptions from the Sensi Seed catalog, where I don't remember what strain it was. Do you remember, Notso?
NL5 Haze, Neville was talking about it, might like you lose bowel control and have hilarity. And we would always read that and be like, I want
You're
weed
gonna
that's
piss
so
and
strong.
shit your pants. We're like,
Yeah, I
that's what I
want.
want.
Try that.
I want
You know?
the weed that makes you puke, that makes you shit your pants or pee yourself. You know, if it's that good. The other thing I wanted to say, Noel, is you just said to me what I think is the most beautiful description of a cultivator or someone that's holding genetics is that you're the custodian of the strain.
Yeah, I like
And
that too.
I think that says a lot of you to describe yourself as a custodian. And I think we should all be custodians. And, you know, yes, you know, some people can be the creator, but we're all the custodians of this plant. And I'm going to start describing myself as a custodian, and I'll make sure I give you the credit.
Well, let me ask you a quick question before I forget. Noel, if you remember, what year did you get it?
I was trying to think this back to myself, you know, as I knew this was coming up, and I believe it was 2001. It would be late in 2001. Maybe I really want to guess it to be like 2000, sometime in the spring. 2000. I'm sorry, 2002, maybe. And I you know, I'm sure all of you know.
Believe me.
Those times I wasn't thinking about, you know, the times are hard for me sometimes.
We weren't documenting it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I didn't think that this would matter.
I remember
I'm not that kind of
when
guy.
I got strains by what house I was living in when I got them. And I moved enough that it's like
thinking.
Yeah. It's like I moved enough. I'd be like, well, it was 01 or 02 because I was in the red house off the thing, and that's when I first grew it, and I only lived there for those 2 years, so it has to be. It's hard.
I was blessed with a space to grow for a long time in one singular space. And now that I'm like talking about it with you guys, I think one of the reasons why the headband faded for us was because Greg had come. And I had met Greg on tour in the past. Actually, I met him in '95 looking for heady blast pieces. He'd had these little Millefiori hash pipes that I always really wanted. Right? I was super nice. So I met him over glass first. And then years later, I was making other alcohol extractions. I met him again then. And there was a moment when he came and I saw him and we reconnected. And he said to me, well, I found the guy that gave me all that weed that one time that I got all the seeds out of, this 12 seeds out of. And I was like, really? You found that guy? He called him Job. I call him Job. And I was like, okay. It's like, I gave the seeds back to that guy. I was like, okay. He's like, he lives in Napa. And I was like, oh shit, he lives close to me. And he said, go over there and take some clones, please. You'll preserve him, right? Because I don't trust Job to like keep it going enough. I need to spread it around a little bit. That's Chem 1 through 4 is what we're talking about. And so I go over to Job's house, and I you know, he's a character. I could see him on Dead Tour all day long. And he walks me out to his backyard, and he has these huge plants. And I'm like, this is them? He's like, yeah, this is them. Huge plants. Put it in pots in the ground. He's gonna flower them. It's huge plants. 6 feet tall, 8 feet wide. You know, like for his backyard, it's pretty good size. And they weren't flowering. He's like, go ahead, take cuttings. You know, Greg said you should come and do this. I said, okay. I took cuttings, and I passed them out amongst my crew. We recognized, and I'm sure Ben will agree with, number 1 and number 2 is trash. We threw those right away. Number 3 and 4, I said 3. We liked 3, but it turned golden at the end. Mm-hmm. And for our clients, they hated that. I'm like, bro, this is
not just
Chem.
your clients.
Yeah, I was like, this is Chem.
Any
guys.
West Coast, yellow and brown is not the color.
Right? And I was like, you guys realize what this is? And we did. You know, we didn't obviously realize what it was because we let that one go too. But that was like a pure. If we had kept that and then crossed with it properly, it was a pure Chem. That one that turned golden. And then the number 4 was like more Chem Dog, Chem D style. I felt like maybe even closest side. It wasn't any of them, but it resembled most of them, right? And I think Chem 4 was the one that made it anywhere. Mm-hmm. I know that he also gave those cuts to Swerve, right? I heard that. I believe that to be true. Swerve did Cali Connection with it. I did nothing with it, by the way. We let them die off, and it was like, yep, it's gone. So, something I regret. You know, it is what it is.
I don't regret it one bit.
After the D,
but the pureness of it.
After Greg gave the D, it came out to the West Coast, and Ben mommed it up. And I went down to meet Ben in Oakland, and got cuts of the D from him. And he was like, we were talking about it, and he was like, yeah, I got these other chems. He's like, but they all suck ass. This is the only cut you want. These other ones, trash. I would feel guilty giving it to you. Like, and he was so firm about it. And so I never grew, I grew the 4 and the 1 later and stuff, but I never grew all of them because Ben was like, dude, you have so much good weed already. I'm not going to waste your time. No, don't do it.
I mean, I was super Chem Dog heavy, right? And so
yeah.
The reason that Greg called me is because that Chem D came to my house, and then the deal, Joe B, he wanted him to have the stuff back from 1991, and so he said, hey, will you give him a 91 and a D cut? Well, I didn't get the 91 from G, and I had a rule to follow, and I wasn't allowed to give that cut, so I said, yeah, I'll give him all the cuts except the 91, and so I brought the D out to him and got the 1, 2, 3, 4, grew those one time. There were some like huge buds, but I didn't like those, so I threw them out. And I had given him this 91 that I said was kind of, I don't think this is real, dude. I got it over here at this house, and I don't think they're allowed to have it, or they don't have it. And so you guys mentioned Cali Connection. Well, they stole the Skunk VA picture off of Overgrow and put it on his seed pack so it looked like 91, and then he made seeds with the fake 91 cut that Joe B had that he figured out in like 3 weeks when he vegged it out. So then that made fake 91 that for like 6 years kind of ruined the Chem Dog market because Cali Connection was selling seeds of this terrible.
Yes, I didn't know that part. I didn't know that part. I love that history right there.
And you know, Ben, you're not wrong. Happened. The 91 and the D are way better than the 1, 2, 3, 4.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, I grew a couple times, threw those out. Chem D, I kept a couple times and then threw that away also, and didn't get it back till like, I don't know, 5 years ago or something because I wasn't that interested in it. I was really just on 91 and anything that compared to like 91.
And before I met Ben, I'd heard the legend of him.
Likewise with Noel, like we ran in circles that would go like this all the time with mutual people interacting, and then when we finally met, we probably had a little animosity towards each other in the first meeting and realized we were like very similar, and then just started blazing weed together and making hash, so it worked out.
It did. Yeah, we did a lot of work once with Nectars together. We won awards. Yeah. We won several awards together.
We did. Actually, the headband that I had of Noel's won the 2013 San Francisco High Times Cup under Loud Seeds. That was the weed I grew. And then that catapulted me into the rec market, right? Because Harborside knew I won the cup the day before, and then Rick called me up, was like, yo, I heard you got the headband. I was like, yep. And so then after that, I pretty much sold every pack to Harborside for the next like 4 years till 2018. It was awesome.
Even today, that stuff is unusually strong. for weed.
Yeah,
And
so,
so
you know,
is
I
the
probably have 500 headband tests through labs in Illinois and California. And, you know, I just got some 28s, but they're rare. But 22% was high, man. And then people would be like on their knees after smoking joints of it. And I'm like, it's only 22%. So, you know, this high THC model people
Yeah.
follow isn't always it, man. It's like just that weed is something special, that headband cut. And you know, I'm like I said, I'm 91 focused all the time, but like that headband was right there on that tier with like this
So,
is the best
I
weed in the
wanna
world.
I wanna mention something based on what you're just saying about being 91 heavy. I was always like
So heavy.
91, right? And people would mention the Chem D, and people like, you know, people like JJ have been public about saying that they think the Chem D is better than the 91. And I was just like, no, right? Well, P-Bud gave me a copy of the Chem D like this last year, and I put one in my backyard really late and flowered it to pollinate it. And the shit's fucking amazing. And so my point is that sometimes we can have our blinders on, right? We can like love our girls so much that when other hot chicks are there, we don't think they're as hot, which is good, right? We shouldn't be looking at these other girls thinking that they're hotter than our chick, right? We should love our chick the most. But you know, it's just when we're talking about cannabis, like I said, sometimes we could just be like, no, this is the. And so now that I have it again and I'm growing it more, I'm trying to be a little bit objective and be like, what is better? You know? And like I said, the Chem D that I had was seeded. I barely had anything to smoke, and it was outrageous. You know, it was like really so nice. So I wish I could have had a little bit of that objectiveness back in the day. And I also wonder, like, would you have gotten rid of the 2 and the 4? Like, okay, so even if it wasn't as good as the 91, is that shit better than all the other shit that we have today? You know,
No.
I mean,
If I
Not
had it
in my
right now
opinion.
with the space I have and the abilities I have, yeah, but in the 6-lighter garage with the shitty bedroom I had, it wasn't going to go down. So had to pay that rent, you know?
People,
It is a
people
pure.
go
It
back
is a
and listen.
pure. You know, it's close to as pure of chem that you can get. So to have the primal colors, Todd said this to me one year. You know, the primal colors available to you is valuable. It might not be the best ever, but to cross it together with things made a difference. You could see, and I did do some breeding with chem, and it did cross nicely. So you could have, you know, in modern age, if you had it, you could cross the bad sides of it out really fast, and
so
it would be
one thing I thought I should
excellent.
follow up on real quick, just of what Noel said. If you got it in 2000 or 2001, one of the reasons that's pretty important is because, like you were saying, you got the OG Kush when there was only one OG Kush, right? This one cut came to LA, and then within 15 years spawned a giant family of Kush cuts, right? And like Oregon Kid made some S1s in like '03 or something, and different things started coming around. But like in that era, maybe like if you're talking 2000, 2001, there probably was literally one cut. And people didn't believe me in the comments when I mentioned on the story last time how valuable and how off the chain prices were for OG in LA then.
Oh yeah,
In
I
the
didn't
late
know.
90s and early 2000s, like it was the most expensive weed we'd ever heard of. I didn't get that because I was living in the hills in Mendo and wasn't connected, but there was people down there that were getting 72 wholesale, $8,000. It was insane how much it went for. So
I'd
it was
like
I
like,
Ben
got
and Noel to
like
tell us how
44 to
much the weed was
48.
going for.
I got it between 44 and 48 at my doorstep. They paid me 44 48 at the time.
in
I never
in
sold it for
in,
more.
in Sonoma.
Yeah, in Sonoma.
I never left
I
my
know,
house
I know those,
unless
and I just
42
didn't,
all
and
day.
and they said that I could go down, like no, if you want to go down to LA and do it, you'll get more. And I was like, I don't want to go to LA.
Yeah, there was
But I
definitely always a premium between, and that makes me laugh so much because people would tell me that same thing, and I would be like, with whatever cut it was, and I'd be like, I want to stay in Mendo. What's my door price? You take it and go do what you want. I was just happy that I had weed that people would drive directly to me and come see me to make sure they could get it. And that was one of those cuts.
I heard it was around 7,000 for my people. They would sell it down there for 7,000.
Yeah. That's kind
Hey,
of
Noel,
it.
do you know where this thing came from before LA?
Oh yeah, and I've been meaning to say this. When I met Adam Dunn, and he questioned me along the same lines here, he's like, I know that guy you're talking about. I know HWC. He's sleeping on my couch sometimes. And so Adam gave me a backstory that I didn't know about, to where, because he would, you know, he'd leave, he'd go down to LA, he'd stay there for a couple of days, and he'd come back. Now, I don't know if that means Adam knows where he got it, because he didn't say like, oh, right then and there, he's like, oh, I got it for him or anything. He didn't say that to me. So I'm sure HWC has other friends there that he was working with. But he knew that, and you could probably dig at that and find out some more information from where HWC got it from. Because Adam might have witnessed that also. May or may not. I don't know.
But I mean, this, as the story goes, like OG Kush came to LA in '96 or something with Matt and Josh. And so if you got it from Florida, apparently, is what they say.
So
Ooh, here we go.
You triggered me.
Ben and
Go.
I
Here
were
we
talking
go.
about this
Trigger.
earlier. I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So this Florida thing keeps coming up all the time, and like, so the 2013, I think, Emerald Cup, I met all the cookie dudes, and Jigga handed me a joint, and he's like, this is gonna make your mouth water, and I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And I hit this joint, and my fucking mouth started watering. I was like, holy shit, this was a like really one of the best OG joints I've ever blazed. Actually, shout out to that dude, it was killer. And he's telling me this is the Flow Rider Kush, and I know that this LA Kush dudes are from Florida, right? And so they're talking 96. You just said it, 96. You're talking all these years, and you know I say I'm chem heavy all the time. And the first time I saw an OG Kush bud in like 2000 earlies, I was like, oh, this is like 91. This is like 91. And so then these Florida people, all this OG from Florida, right? And so I'm from New Hampshire in 91, late 91, when I started smelling Chem Dog at fish shows, like I tracked that dude down and like made him be my friend, right? Like I was getting that weed. And that's truth right there. And so I see G sometimes, and I just saw him in Vegas the other day, and I was like, dude, so this headband thing and this OG shit from Florida in 93, how many people had weed that was so close to Chem Dog, you know? And he's like, and he calls me Benny. He's like, Benny, I got to tell you, 93, whatever dead shows were, I think it was spring tour, was it Orlando or Fort Lauderdale? He's like, I was selling Chem Dog that had seeds in it. I know I was. And
Boom.
So there's no proof, but I was talking to Chem Dog, and I'm like, dude. And he said he was selling weed in Florida with seeds in it in 93 at the shows. And so
Boom.
that's just a theory I have from experience that those things are very similar. So I'd love to know if those kids were deadheads back then, or if it was a bag seed, or what the family was. Did they know the dog bud people from Crested Butte? Like, how close are those things? Because they sure do seem similar.
So, you know, something that's really funny, actually, is when I was growing the dog in the early 2000s, I would sometimes meet up with these people from LA, and they were so egotistical, and they'd be like, this is just some bag seed of Kush, bro. And I'm like, no, it's not. And they're like, dude, if it was as good as you say it was, they're like, we'd have access to it. And I'm like, no, there's like literally like 4 people in California that have it, dude, and you're not one of them. Like, I'm not even trying to be egotistical. I'm just saying that like, you know, like the guy that spread it out, like Gaby, he was pretty adamant. And like Ben said earlier, like he didn't want us to give it to fucking anyone. So we didn't.
And no, it was Greg told me not to just give it out to anyone.
Well, I
was also keeping my word to Greg at the time.
I just mean that you did not want it to spread at all. You know, and so I didn't spread it, and Ben didn't spread it. You know. And
which I still maintain is the right move. That was the right move.
Of course. Well, was the right move to spread it or to not spread it?
Not spread it at the time. not spread it
Like
at the time.
the way I say it is
That's how I feel about it.
when
Because
it
I'm
got
on that
out-
side of Ben.
when it got out, I was upset that it got out because I felt like somebody broke their word and let it get out, right?
Well,
Hold
let's
on, let me just say this, Noel. Now, I'm so glad that it got out because if it didn't get out, all these other great things wouldn't have been made. And,
Sure.
you know,
I
it
don't
would have
disagree
been
with
hurting our community, not helping our community.
And I'm sure there's a
And-
lot of great strains in history that have been lost because of the thought of like, we're not going to let anyone else have it.
Yeah, 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4.
Right?
Or
We're
1,
not
2,
going to let anyone else
3,
have
you
it. We
know?
lost those. We lost those.
I mean, but
like,
you know,
that time was, it was a lot. It was intense. It was the beginning of the strain wars.
we don't
Right.
need to get all deep into it, but like when it leaked,
Oh, that's a
definitely-
good comment. Gatekeeping genetics is a shame. I don't know. Maybe you had to be there because there was a lot going on to just give away your livelihood to everybody in town or
I mean, I think one thing that people don't realize is that we're all hippies, and there was fucking rules about how you conducted yourself. There was thing like if someone was willing to give you something and it came with restrictions, your word, you know, if you broke your word, you know, like it was such a small community.
That's
that
called respect,
if
everybody.
If it got around that you were a scammer or you were a scumbag or you were a liar or whatever, you would be cut off in a lot of ways. And like
that was your word.
that was your word. And like amongst
That is all you
hippies
have.
and amongst our thing and how we did it back then, that shit was important. And who got access to what was always restricted. And not just in weed. It was always based on friendship and trust.
I have to correct you.
Huh.
You keep using past tense, and it still is, right? Like you're saying, so you're saying it's not important?
I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying that like there was a time in which, for whatever reason, hippies were like the main highway of kind bud. We're not that way anymore, right?
Yeah.
But like
Right.
when you go back far enough, the people that had the best weed were either hippies or hippie adjacent for the most part. Like we had it. And now it's spread to all these different subcultures and groups and this and that and everything else. But people just don't realize that, like, I mean, I'll give an example. There was friends of ours, right, that would be like, you should give me the dog. And I'm like, I can't, you know? And they're like, why? And then Gabby won't let me. And they were like, well, Gabby should give it to me. I'm like, well, you have his, go ask him. All he has to do is call me up and say, take dude a flat, and there's a flat coming your way. But what happens 4 months from now when Gabby sees a nug in your hand and he's like, where'd you get that? And he's like, I grew it. Well, how'd you get it? Well, then I just lied to one of my closest friends that I wouldn't pass it out. I'm like, I can't do it. It's not going to happen. Why would he trust me again if I, you know? And so it was sort of like, people call it hoarding, but it was like hippies found a different way to survive that wasn't the normal path that people took. And, you know, for better or for worse, like that used to be, you know, we had all these rules around it. We just did.
So
And they changed over time. And I'm not saying they're not valuable. I just mean that like, let's put it this way, right? Let's be honest. If Ben or Noel found out in 1999 or 2000 that you were selling cuts that they gave you, they would never give you another cut again.
that's true.
Or the people
mean,
that gave them
I
to
think-
us would be like, you know, this wasn't some legal area. You know, there was
No.
consequences to everything on both sides, the law and, you know, your personal relationships. And there's no way that you're gonna strain them for
Let's
nothing.
compare it to business. We're all entrepreneurs unto ourselves. And if you're going to share your business with someone, you would hope that they respect it, because then it ruins business for everyone, right? It was a business too. I love the plant. You know how I talk about the plant. She has given me everything in life, and I have the utmost respect. But there is a point of like part business to this. And so if we spread those clones out to every single person that asked them for them, it would have reduced our business at the time. It's
Well,
different now.
So let me just take a second to respond to some of the things that were said. First of all, somebody in the comments said everything has a price.
I saw that. That's bullshit.
Okay.
It does not.
No, it does not.
Your integrity doesn't have a price.
Yeah,
there are
you
things
Like
can't
we
buy
never
that.
got offered any money. No, how much did you get offered for cuts with headband? Like, you know,
Well, I'll tell you how much I was offered, and the person might be listening to this podcast, and if he is, he can comment. And there's a number of people. So I got a cut given to me as the Mass Super Skunk. Okay, which, you know, anyone who knows, the Mass Super Skunk isn't the Mass Super Skunk. It's the cut from Virginia that I brought up to Greg, and that was what I traded for the 91 and brought it back out here. And so they gave it to me because they knew I didn't have it, and they said, you know, and they knew I wanted it for breeding, which I do, but he asked me to not give it out. He asked me to not give it out to anybody. And so I've had this cut now, you know, for I think over a year. It was recently just flowered out. I'm not even 100% sure that it is the Super Skunk, you know, because it's been so long since I've grown it. And it wasn't the Super Skunk from Sensi, which I grew more of. It was the one from Virginia, which looks a little bit different. And so, like, I got some of the flower, and I'm like, I don't even know if this is the right shit. I've been offered $10,000 for the cut. And I was like, I can't do it. Okay. Then I have another friend, okay, and his name's Roy.
The difference
Wait,
between
hold on, I want to say
someone
this.
offering you $10,000 for the cut, though, is that
What?
they're going to make money off that. They're going to make
Yeah.
a bunch of money off of it.
Yeah.
So then there's somebody else, my
That's
buddy
what it is.
Roy. I have a buddy Roy, okay, and he doesn't sell his weed. Okay, he grows for himself. He has almost no friends, and he doesn't sell his weed, and he wants the cut from me. And I'm like, I can't give you the cut. I was like, I promised I wouldn't give it. And he's like, well, you know, I don't associate with anyone. You know, I'm not going to give anyone the cut. He's like, he said, you're as bad as that person that we don't want to mention today for hoarding the cut. He's like, you're hoarding it just like everybody else. And I'm like, no, there's a difference between hoarding a cut and keeping your word.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And like,
as Ben calls it,
honestly,
integrity code.
Yeah.
There's
exactly.
integrity.
But
you know.
But what I want to say about, like, there's a point when the cut gets out, right? That now you're trying to hoard something that's already out. And so, like, I think if you create something and you want to keep it, and you want to keep it in your tight circle, then you do that. And once it gets out, you just got to realize it's out. You know, I fucked up. Didn't trust the right people, or something bad happened. But, like, you know, and I think hoarding a strain for a period of time makes sense, but hoarding a strain forever, I don't think that makes sense.
If it gets out, and it's inevitably it does, it gets out, all you would hope is that person would recognize that it comes from you. Like Ben says to me, I got it from Noel. You would hope that you would get the respect for the person that has it, because that is just following integrity code. Maybe you didn't get it from that person, but you have it now. And to say, so well, that really comes from this particular person, and give them the credit for what is them being custodian of.
You know,
excuse me. Let me say something, not so good. This reminds me of some current drama that's happening around the toad venom. And, you know, I don't give a shit about this stuff. I think it's just like modern hype weed, right? But the guys who made...
Have you guys tried it?
No.
What?
No, we were just saying we haven't tried the toad venom.
Yeah, I haven't tried it.
I haven't tried it. Okay.
No, I haven't tried it. But the point is the guys that made it said that people asked them to verify that they have the real cut. Okay? Because they want to, you know, and they're like, no, we're not going to verify other people's weed. They're like, if you want it verified, you buy it from us. So what happens is, you know, people buy the cut from them or get the cut from them. Then those people are distributing it or whatever, and they want to know, hey, did I get the real cut? And these guys are like, I don't want to verify it. And so it's funny because you just said you hope that if people grow the weed and it gets out, that they just give you credit. And these guys, they don't want the credit. They don't want people selling their weed or using their name, you know?
The game is changed.
I didn't say credit. I said
One at a time.
respect.
The game has changed so much. Like, to go back to like when I was a kid, I met these older hippies, right, that had been on Dead Tour like from early 80s, right? And they told me it was weird being on Dead Tour because when they first started, it was pretty small. And when Touch of Grey came out, they were like, 80% of the crowd is new. Right? So imagine like you've got all these norms and you have all these rules and you have all these ways people interact and everybody sort of gets brought in slowly and understands the rules. And then there's such a flood of new people that there's like 20% of the crowd that knows the rules and is trying to obey them and 80% that just doesn't give a fuck. Right? And that's happened a little bit with weed in that we had rules and we had norms and we had integrity and we had various things. And it was broken by all kinds of people, but it's still, we tried to keep to it. And now it's grown so big and legal and rec and this and that and everything else. A lot of it has changed, you know, and, you know, sometimes it's okay that it's changed. And in other cases, it's like, you know, it's not that great. I mean, part of the thing when we're talking about selling cuts is I know like Oregon Kid and some other people, the Kush was sold in LA to some people for $30,000 to $50,000 a cut because it was so much money per pound that like they were essentially selling a business, right? You might pay 50 grand for that cut, but then if you could get 6-7 G's a pound, you know, you throw it in a 10 lighter and you made your money back and now you're off and rolling and you're loving life. And so there was a lot,
I think that's built on just the numbers itself says intention. The fact that they're willing to give you so much money for a singular cut means that they're planning on making 20x, 50x of it, right? So that really does get it out there. You're literally taking that money and saying, go for it. Let's see what you can do with this.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. Let's see you do it.
You know, the funny thing about OG Kush, just to interject, is that there are probably 6 or 7 OG Kush cuts that all claim to be the first cut that came to LA, right? But if you grow them side by side, they're not the same. But people will say, oh, the 92 OG is it, or that the headband we're talking about is it, or the SFV is it, or the original Ghost is it. But if you grow them side by side in the same room, in the same conditions, they're not the same cut. And so there's always been renaming. There's always been a little bullshitting. There's always been this like making seed. Money. A
bag seed, dude. There's always been a bag seed.
There's always. I almost wanted to bring that up again because Noel, you said something right at the beginning about like the sour you had. Everybody used to argue about which bag seed of sour was the best bag seed. And people now think that sour was like one singular cut that got passed around rather than some accidents that spawned seeded weed that various people in the crew popped and had their own phenos and everybody had diesel. And you're just saying they used to battle over which one of those bag seeds was the best diesel, even early.
Still do.
25 years ago.
Over it. Yeah, still do battle over it.
You know? Yeah.
I mean, from my point of view, in the 90s, AJ's cut was fucking amazing.
Hey, you know, something that I wanted to ask Ben
amazing.
Is when I first started podcasting, I think I made a video that was in response to Notso Dog and Crybaby. And he made a video talking about elite strains. Okay, and we're talking about like, what's the next elite strain? And, you know, when I was thinking about it, you know, it's funny, one of the things I was like, the elite strain from today is like LCG or runts. And people can hate on it, you know, they can say how much they hate LCG or runts, but what makes a strain in elite is having lasting power and general recognition from a lot of people that this shit is the best and even what sells the most, right? And so one thing I was talking about elites is you can't have an elite strain if it only exists in your grow room, in your grow tent, because you're not the one that gets to decide if it's an elite. The market decides if it's an elite, right? Like we can like this. Well,
No,
I mean, like
so I was going to
having-
mention the same thing a little
so
bit.
go ahead.
Because
I wanted to ask this to Ben, so and then
with
we can have Notso
commercialization of cannabis, it like this toad venom. I've never smoked it. I don't know about it. I'd love to smell it. But they're making hype. I heard there was maybe a theft out of their facility. I don't know any of the details, but I heard somebody else has it maybe that's not supposed to have it. Blah blah blah. But the hype you get from the regulated market, if the open market gets a hold of the same cut, it creates like FOMO. It creates the elite cuts that Gabby's talking about. You can't do it yourself, and this is something I fall victim to. I make these things, and then just my company grows them, and so you have to buy my company's weed to try these cuts, right? Some of the new ones. But if they were out there, yeah, then people. So like the toad venom thing, if those people can come along, right? Because what I learned to do is like we can't rest on our laurels, and so I just make new ones off the things I like so much.
Bingo.
And now I'm not so hung up on Chem Dog and like what the things, because that's G's thing, man. I've always said like G launched that seed. Like I respect it, but I like to make art and I like to make things, and so I make my own cuts, and so. But when they don't get out, yeah, you can only get as popular as how many pounds you can grow and sell and get people talking about.
Speaking of the dog.
Hold on, one more thing, not to dog. I want to say this, and then I'll let you go, I promise. That's why I give Ben the credit that I do. Because Ben is the one that's responsible for bringing the Chem Dog to the legal market, which was what was responsible for creating the awareness of the strain. If it wasn't for Ben, there would be 0 people in the comments that would have a fucking clue what the Chem Dog was.
People
Because
don't realize
it was just us. It was
but
just
Ben
us in our small group.
Was top shelf in a lot of formative Bay Area clubs. His weed was the best weed, whether it was attributed to him or not.
Along with winning cup after cup along the way.
Yeah, but I just mean that like whether he got credit or not, you know, like people wanted Ben's weed because it flew off the shelves and it brought customers in and his weed was fire. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's like I don't know. I was going to make a comment about the Chem Dog for a second.
That, by the way.
Because I just grew some. I haven't grown it in a little bit. And I have a bunch of nice weed right now, dude. And I broke off some Chem Dog to smoke. And I sat there with my kids and I was like, I am so much higher than I've been in weeks. And I just thought to myself, like this weed that I've had like half my life or whatever, like I'm sitting there and I'm smoking all this good weed and I've weed from my friends and I have really nice stuff that I like. And like smoking Chem Dog after not smoking it for a few months felt like hash. I was so much higher than I thought I was going to be. And so to me, an elite, you know, like, yes, there's popularity and yes, there's like a commercial aspect. But to me, the true measure of an elite is like what jar drops the fastest in the collection? What weed do you keep reaching for? What weed do your buddies ask you to bring joints of to the concert with them?
Yeah, what cuts through the 10 joints in the concert to get you high still, you know? Like
Gabby and I used to
every time.
Gabby and I used to be scared to share dog at concerts with people because we'd be puffing joints and inevitably people smell it and want to hit it. There's any number of times where like Gabby and I smoked out somebody next to us and their knees buckled and then security is like helping them away because it was so much stronger than what they were used to. Like they fell out.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
I took, you know, I was
Was that just weed in that joint? You're like,
I was
I got that a few times.
You know, I had a problem with
it
drugs
was.
through the whole thing. And 21 years ago, I got sober and I spent 16 months with nothing, right? And the first thing I did after 16 months is I was like, I'm going to smoke weed. And so I smoked weed and it was a joint of Chem Dog. And I got so high, I was hallucinating. And I was like, And like later on, I was like, holy shit, that's what I've been doing to people for the last 20 years. Like when you
Yeah.
just met me and you smoked a joint, was it like that for people? That's why they stopped talking and that's why they did all that?
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea, you know?
Gabby would look at me and we'd be at a show and he'd be like, "Do you think if we share, he'll fall out?" Like, because after it happened a few times, he'd be like, "Man, like I want to be generous, but I don't want to ruin this dude's night." And
What's
I will
funny
say,
though is sometimes we'd share weed with the guy that needed to really chill the fuck out.
yeah,
The
is
guy that was
that-
dancing too aggressively and bumping into you. You make believe you're just being cool, sharing your joint with him, and then he needs to fucking
that headband from Noel is also rare potency. It's in that same family of like it is unusually strong.
Feels like
Even if you're used to, yeah, it gets you, and that's part of why it's like had such lasting. It has lasting power. That it is strong cannabis, and it works.
Which takes us into the new age of dabs. You remember their first dabs? That was a whole other experience.
I do remember the
It was like
first
getting
time
high all over
dabbed.
again for the first time.
Yeah,
Right up. Like all the dabs, all the
The first
rosin,
time I
all the
smoked your
things.
stuff was
Shatter.
like smoking weed for the first time all over again. Like I said, I'll never forget smoking that concentrate at the Emerald Cup. And it's so funny. Like I said, I had no idea that it was you. And then when you gave me that little bio, I'm like, holy shit, was that shit Noel's?
It
It's
was
the nicest.
It was. We did that.
Hey, can I
for many
ask you
years.
about your concentrates real fast?
Sure. Of
So
course.
that the terp
Look,
juice,
yeah, the terp juice. Yes.
how is that made? What method of extraction? Is that BHO?
It is. It's a mixed hydrocarbon extraction. I
Okay,
like using
and
a little bit of propane also. It captures
how
terpenes.
is it that it gets so liquidy? Because like I get
That's a great question.
I get sauce pour off, which is
Mm-hmm.
Terpenes.
Absolutely.
It contains about 50-60% THC, like yours, but it's never that liquidy. It's
Right.
always, I can grab some to show
That-
everybody, but it's
that's-
always a lot thicker.
That is truly what made me special at the time. That was, I call myself one of the pioneers of Resin. I got to get a lot of credit to my good friend who actually tagged me to see this. I even saw this because his name's Eric. We're still great friends, and
What,
if I'm going to say who's the
last
number
name is
one,
G?
no.
Oh,
Name's
okay,
Eric.
because we have a friend Eric as well that's in the
Eric's from the
concentrate
Bay. He works in Washington now. He still does the thing. So I have utmost respect for Eric, and we were doing it in my house. And Eric would come up and he'd do lots of extraction at home. I did all the weed growing for it all. We talk about it. We have that kind of mindset. But I do remember the first day that he discovered it. It was he liked to do extraction at nighttime, and it was snowing on top of my mountain in Sonoma. I was just at enough height to get snow occasionally. So it was really cold. And this was in the days of open blasting, so we were doing that in the garage, right? And so he comes up, he's been down there working. He comes up and hangs out in the house, and he's a piece of parchment paper and a pan. And on the edge of that parchment paper, it's all wet. He's like, "What do you think this is?" We looked at it, like scraped around at it. We smelled it. It was like, I think this is the terpenes. And then that's what sparked it all off. I kept a little sample of that, the first one, for many, 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 many years. I don't have it anymore because I'm sentimental like that. And that kind of launched it off. And we went to the Emerald Cup when it was really small, and it was like a little, 20, 30 booths. We walked into that space, and we saw people just selling weed and dabs. At the time, it was, if it didn't shatter, it didn't matter, right? It was the moment and extraction at the moment. And it was like 2010-ish, 2011, something like that. And I looked at it and I was like, how do we do this? Like, how do we get to sell stuff here? And we sat down and we started dabbing with people, and we had so much hatred over it because it was liquidy. And they thought it was teen soup, right? Which
Watered
forced us
down.
to do, Yeah, it forced us to do I did an incredible amount of testing with SE Labs at the time to prove that it wasn't, that we could get it down to 0 parts per million in solvent. And that's how I know all the stats were too. It gave me a great catalog of stats for the whole thing. But that's when we started a business. That business was called Nectars. Him and I split shortly after. It was called Holy Water also at the time. And we split shortly after. And that's, that took me to the story where Ben was like, you should call it Terp Juice. And so I switched over to calling it Terp Juice, and he went on to do Holy Water, another group.
Holy Water is a great name.
It was a great name. It was tough to market though, because you put in holy water and it's like everything holy water that you would use against vampires. Right? And so was Nectars. Nectars was a horrible name. We named it Nectars after, and we knew that no one would ever associate unless they knew us, after the bar that Fish played in Vermont. It's called Nectars. So we're Fish fans. We're like, let's call it Nectars. That's fun.
Was it made with fresh frozen?
Yes, both. We did both. We could do it all. I mean, it was such an experimental time.
I was just wondering if it was that good, like if you guys were some of the early people doing fresh frozen. I don't know when it started, but the quality difference between yours and everything else was huge.
Everyone has their stories around how that all occurred. All I did was make my story really well known, because I went after it when I discovered what I saw there, right? That was part of it. I don't know what I believe Eagle Bill says he did it too. I don't know his timeline for all those things. I first tried BHO in 2008. That's when I first tried BHO. Right, and I had been making alcohol extraction before that.
We made BHO with your headband cut, and
me too.
Honestly, it tasted like you're smoking a tire, but it got everyone so high. Like there was multiple people where like the sweat appeared on their brow. And I don't even know if it was necessarily positive, because like in the early days of BHO, you got a lot higher than you were used to, and it would kick in some paranoia. So that cut in particular can do that just with flour. Then we made some BHO with it, and it was like, oh man, you think your friends are like making fun of you?
They are. Your friends are making fun of you.
Yeah. I did it with sour too. I did it with all those great strains at the time, and it was great to be able to do it fresh and dry and see how good we could get it to go that way. Because we were in the pursuit of headies. This was not meant to be a business. This was just a couple of bros making concentrates for themselves, and it turned into something different. But that era of flour, to digress, we would smoke it right when it came out, right? Because the flavor was the highest, and it was before testing, so we knew there was some gas in it. But we're like, oh, let it sizzle a little bit and then hit it. It'll be fine. It'll take it right out, because we're gonna talk about parts per million, right? And so when we finally had testing available, we're like, we got to test what we were like smoking when it was like just barely finished. That number was 28,000 parts per million. Just for scale for people. In California, we wanted it under 500 parts per million in residual solvent. And in legal, it's 5,000 parts per million. Recognize that everyone breathes about 150 parts per million of butane every day. If you live in a city, it's in the air out there, and what we, in the city air, it's part of the whole thing. It is an organic compound.
Can you repeat that number?
It's about 150
ppm.
And then
ppm a day.
What's allowed in license?
What's in license? It's 5,000.
Okay, and what was present in yours?
In mine now?
Oh, well, I thought you were talking about the past when you first.
Oh, the past when we first started smoking it, it's 28,000.
28,000.
28,000, and it tasted great.
It had a lot of residual.
Yeah, well, 20.
Oh, and then
28,000 parts per million.
Then there was the era where everybody liked to smoke their dabs on the cherry red glowing banger. That it was like 1,200 degrees, and no one really knew that it made carcinogen. There was some learning going on in the early days of extraction. Let's put it that way.
I agree. And that's how I think BHO got such a bad name in the end, to be honest with you. Because done properly, now I preach to people about like, don't buy shit off the street for BHO. That's not the way to go. Rosin all day long, right? Don't do that. But if you want that stuff, buy it legally because it's been tested. The product, like all the material, it's been tested all the way through. Like what's in it. You don't know what's in it if it's off the street. That's hard to unless you know the people specifically, fine, right? But if you're buying a cheap vape off the street, I question where it was made and how it was made.
And most of the learning curve has been solved. Like I said, like nobody realized when everybody was hitting dabs off. Like I would hit a dab off a cherry red banger, and your lungs would seize. It's almost like you couldn't breathe for a minute. We didn't know that we were smoking carcinogens or cyanide or anything like that because it would the terpenes would turn into something toxic at 900 degrees. That was like knowledge that came a few years later. It was like get it glowing hot and drop it in there and go.
So one of the great memories I have was with AJ Sauer, and our mutual friend HT, I'll call him. And it was when we first did. AJ gave me his cut at the time. And I grew it all out, single sourced it, fresh frozen, dabs, right? So we had so much of it suddenly, let's do pours, So you'd heat up the banger and you'd pour just half gram of juice into it at once. And pretty sure AJ went first on that one. And he looked up to Ben and he goes like, whoa. And it sat him down for about 30 minutes. I went next and my response was like, I only taste sour diesel right now. Is this ever going to go away? Is this flavor going to leave my
It coated your mouth and
it coated my mouth. It was like that for 45 minutes. I could just only taste sour diesel on my face. Dude, I started panicking me. I'm like, oh my God, did I just stain my taste buds with sour diesel permanently? So that was like one of those moments where I was like, wow, this level of terpenes is something we haven't seen before in history. Of cannabis. I also remember being at a concert in psychedelics and having the pens, right? And we have these vape pens. I just pour the juice into the vape pen and hit it. And never before also in history have we had such levels of terpenes available to us on something like any psychedelics. It's like an enhancer in a completely different way. That high terpene level of mixing into food, fantastic thing to do with it. I love that. Putting a drop. My first time I did that is with Josh Kuhn from Sluggers, the guy that does Sluggers. We were in Spain together. There was a table full of heads. Jigger was there. Josh was there. Frosty was there. There was a bunch of us, and they were all still friends. It was nice. Ned from CBD. Anyway, we got these steaks that were sizzling, right? And I was like, oh man, we should take a little juice and drop it onto this thing and put a piece of steak over the top of it. And we did that, and I think I have this video of my face freaking out about how much I loved it. I have literally used that as a little parlor trick for executives for years. And it works every time because it cooks it right in. Which is the continued exploration to me of a high terpene something. What can we do with these high terpenes?
Wow. That's crazy because I always say I don't like the taste of cannabis in food. When I even gonna eat cannabis, that's when I'm okay with it being, distillate because I don't want to taste it.
This is a different thing. We'll have to try it. I was
gonna say you're gonna have to invite me over to dinner one of these days to try a terp juice infused rib. I'll buy the steak. You supply the terp juice.
I'm ready.
So where do you make hash now?
I do it in New Jersey. I moved to New Jersey a year ago. I work for a company called Sun Extractions right now. I'm the VP of Extraction and Chief Innovation Officer. We've been on the shelves for about a year. Everything's going well. We've won a couple awards. We're gearing up to do entering the High Times Cup, which is a whole other conversation, I feel like. But yeah, it's great to be here in Jersey. The industry is strong here. You know what it reminds me of? California 2016. Everything was bright and beautiful, and we're all homies, and it's the sky's the limit, right?
Make sure you save some money.
Yeah, do that.
Eventually, the sky falls.
Yeah.
He's like, it reminds me of before the Titanic hit the iceberg. We're all happy, food is
Yeah.
good, everything's going well.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, it's still a struggle. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as much of a struggle as California is. Let's say that much.
It's a trip. People are excited, right?
Yes, people are excited here. It's really taking off. Jersey's got the dollars. They will pay for good. There is, how about this? There is that crowd of connoisseurs here. You know, I pride myself in understanding finally that it doesn't matter what I like. It's what people buy, and that comes from the business side of me, right? And I'll make headies for myself, and I'll do these little heady projects, and we'll put out cool little baby heady projects. But I realize it's like what people want to buy is something that you have to cater to a little bit, right? And so here, there's a whole crowd of people that are connoisseur level. Your population density is strong, and you know rosin is just really gaining strength here. It's still not, you know, when I first got here, people did not know what a Puffco was. What's up, Josh? I walked around at the Puffco at this first event that I went to. I was like, what is that? I'm like, it's a Puffco Pro. We dab with them, and now they have them. You know, it's growing fast. There is some really great herb being grown here. I'll give it to them. You know, there's a lot of people really, you know, there's a bunch of small farm living soils out there that are just amazing. It's growing beautifully. It is growing beautiful. Right now, we're into the orange-ish, lemony fruit terps here. That's what's popular. Everyone wishes we had some fuels. You know, I see a couple here.
You're in the Tangy era.
People have to grow the fuel in order for you to extract it, right?
Yes, truth.
You,
I mean,
you
soon
can't
come.
extract it if people aren't growing it. But
Soon
you know,
come.
like
you already know.
you,
Soon come.
you said something about how, you know, the market dictates it. So for instance, in California, particularly in the licensed farm, you're going to find very little gas being grown because the runts is what they can sell easy, you know?
Yes.
So it's just like, how much sense does it make to grow, you know, OGs that are, you know, then you're not going to be able to sell them easy. It's just.
Well, I think that, again, the OGs are recognized by an OG crowd, right? So you're at a different level of smoking. Let's say that the OGs are really wanted by like the 40-plussers at this point. Everyone else wants candies and gas. I mean, I see people on the street smoking weed that is colored blue. You know, it's like a moon rock that they've used food coloring. It's blue and yellow and pink. That's what people like, right?
Somebody posted a thing about some like blue and red hash.
They're dying.
On Instagram. They're dying.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, and then, you know, we could go on to the whole spray concepts, right?
I think that would be good conversation.
That is we have a brand that's built around it, because the 20-something-year-olds to mid-30s are vapors. You know, if you're trying to catch that vape market, they just love the flavor.
You guys have it as a product?
We do under a different brand. So we separated our brands apart because I'm like, dude, we're not doing this with this brand. You got to be crazy. The Sun is our flagship cannabis brand, right? Space Ranger is our flavored, enhanced brand.
And that shit is legal to be sold in a licensed
Yeah.
market?
Oh yeah, we're in about 200 dispensaries, 200 something dispensaries here.
I thought that shit could never be licensed because I thought it's like just a bunch of.
No, our sourcing of terpenes now. There's a lot of companies out there that do reputable terpenes now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's all legit.
Wow. So do you have a comment on the black market spray packs?
I mean, they're not for me. I understand the economics behind them. Right? This is built, you know, there is a person that wants to buy a 6-pack of Budweiser every day. Right? They come in and buy one every day, but they can't buy a 24-pack that day. So they'll come in and buy one every day, and that's most. To be honest with you.
It's like that polish that turd. They
Yeah,
have some
so
bad
like,
weed that doesn't smell that good, and they're like, how do we get off this? And they're like, what if we sprayed it?
what if we spray? Well, it's what if we just enhance the
and then
smell of it?
and then it would actually get you high, and it would taste
Well,
better
it
than
smells
it
good,
currently does.
It smells good and it tastes good when it shouldn't, but they don't know, right?
Sure.
And that's the you know, like and even educated, some of them just don't care, and that's their prerogative. Would I ever do it? Absolutely not. Would I suggest doing it? Absolutely not.
I think one thing that maybe should be said that's important is like you're in New Jersey, like where we lived in California was the Mecca for a long time,
Still is.
right?
California's considered.
But now that you're out where you're at, and Ben is working like kind of around where I grew up in a way, it's like you get to take all that knowledge and experience and bring it to a different part of the country.
Absolutely.
Right? And bring that palate, bring that taste. You have an idea of what's good and what's not, what could market. Like I'm going to sell this because it works, but I'm going to get some people hooked on like this other thing that they don't even know about yet. But once enough people start to smoke it,
that happens through penetration with the bud tenders.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Like the bud tenders start liking what you have. That spreads fast because the bud tenders truly are, shout out to all the bud tenders out there. They truly are the people that the clients only meet them and only hear their opinion. They don't hear any of our opinions. Our opinions don't matter. That's what the bud tender says. Right? So to have the bud tenders like your products goes a long way. I think everyone that sells products in the licensed market gives. I mean, we try to give as much as we can to them. We want them to try. We want to give them the swag. We want to try it all out.
It seems like in California, the bud tenders are like the lowest on the, food chain, or I don't know what the term is for like qualified of the staff, and they should be one of the higher qualified people.
It's like
you said, what'd you say?
It's like that everywhere, right? Can you imagine? You say that, but then what Noel's saying is also true. So you have a lot of responsibility into this low-paying job that is also selling all the products in the dispensary. It's wild.
But I think if somebody like Notso Dog,
if
Notso Dog was a bud tender, he'd sell way more weed.
But that's what. So what needs to happen?
Come back.
But grading wise, I just mean like being an amazing bud tender would be like you work at a wine shop in Napa. And someone comes in and they're like, I want some good wine, but I don't know what I want. And the person there hopefully has enough education to steer you towards things in your price range that you might find exceptional. But that takes a pretty deep knowledge, you know what I mean? And a little bit like that for sure. And so you're not going to get that in lots of places. I mean, the reason why I brought up wine real quick is just because I think a lot of dudes are nerdish when they get into like their subculture or whatever. So like in the 70s, people knew that like you ate red wine with meat, and you ate white wine was like your chick liked it, and you had it with fish or maybe chicken. And fast forward after like 30 years of education, and now you're going to get some dude that was like, this was grown in the Appalachia of this, and the way the prevailing winds come in off the coast, the Pinot Gris here gets this extra level, and they have all this knowledge. Where 30 years before it was like there was white and red. And that's kind of where we are with weed, is like we're trying, like we understand all these nuances because it was like our whole life. But how do you explain that to someone who is just used to buying Mexican?
Well,
or what their dealer had nearby.
As a company in California, when we first started doing all this, I recognized that education is something that we're passionate about, but we don't get money out of it. So I do education based off the passion of I do what I love. Like I can't measure an ROI from educating someone, even though I know there is. So education as a passion project, I enjoy much more than trying to educate people, because then I feel like I'm marketing to them. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to educate them about the products. And that has a tendency to see really slow everywhere I've been. That education is slow.
Yeah. Ben used to do this. He still might do it. He probably only does it in summer because it's nice. But he had this whole series of things that he would do, like on deck by a lake or a river in Illinois or something, and he would just talk cannabis.
They make me do all that shit, dude. It's crazy. But to the point, like the bud tenders got to know, and they got to, Captain Schwags over there paying them $2 to sell their shitty pre-roll and their concentrate through this app called whatever. And if you don't want to
Seen
do
that.
that, then your product has to be better, and you have to have the trust of the bud tender, right? To recommend your product and people like it. There's so much. Like Illinois is such an interesting market. Not it's run by MSOs and they don't really care. The sales and discounts, it's insane to see what's happening to cannabis. But you just got to try and grow the plants the best you can, and hopefully. And the spray pack thing is ridiculous. I have kids and now they're getting older, and I always used to be like, oh, these greenhouses are going to kill us because I grow indoor cannabis, and I have an affection for controlled environment cannabis. I really like it more than things with with greenhouse. And so I was like, oh, we're going to get crushed by greenhouses. Now you can even grow shitty greenhouse weed and then spray it with terpenes and distillate. And they might even want to buy that before the product you spent all your efforts on, and that's disheartening to know that we might lose to some fake thing. And so your sommelier wine shop comparison is really good, right? Because people have to know about that. And I think you are correct, red or white. It used to be kind bud or swag bud.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you and I knew on the lot, right?
Yep, I remember this.
Yo,
Yep.
I don't
Kind
want
bud.
that. I want kind
Yep.
bud, dude.
Kind bud.
On the East Coast,
Nuggets.
it was green bud, kind bud, or swag, right? The
Yep.
green bud had seeds in it from upstate New York. The swag was from Mexico, and the kind bud was probably from Greg's closet. Straight up,
Straight up.
For me,
or
anyway.
Cali or Oregon.
Yeah,
In Sheep's Meadows, some Cali and Oregon weed would
I mean,
show up.
one thing I
have a question
should.
for Noel. I have a
Huh?
question for Noel. Noel, why would anyone use these? I don't want to call them synthetic terps, botanical terps, to flavor cannabis instead of just using stuff like your terp water. Why not spray the shit with just a little bit of that? It's gonna make it insane, and then it's
Sure.
pure cannabis with the highest quality extract, no botanicals.
Absolutely.
Why no one does that?
I'm going to say cost.
I was gonna say it for him if he did.
It's cost. We do it for our hash holes for Sun that we just released, but honestly, we don't make money on them really. It's more of a novelty to us. And I want to have it out there in the market. It's not like, oh man, we're gonna make profit off this. It's like, this is a cool item. I want to put it out there. Let's try to do it. Hopefully it fits into our
Be a
financial.
loss leader.
Yeah, it is. But I feel like you kind of have to have a spread of things out there. And like you said, why wouldn't you spray it with the terp juice and stuff? Well, we do.
Money.
But it's money. Yeah, the terps cost you about $7, $6, $5 a milliliter to buy.
Okay, well, how about we?
Dude,
So-
When people talk about percentages of an extract, right? So when you do a BHO extraction, you get X amount percentage of yield, and then what percentage of that is the terp juice, or I call it sauce pour off because that's what I'm getting. They make the sauce and then they pour off the terps, but so it's such a tiny amount. It's so hard to get that product. It's scarce.
Well,
That's why-
it depends. Did Ben grow it? Because if Ben grew it, it's a lot.
How much comes out of it?
Yeah, it depends on the grower and the strain, 100%. But
Okay, so what's the range?
Of actual terps, I
'Cause
would
people
say it's
talk
anywhere
ab-
between. I would say it's anywhere. If it's trimmy bullshit, it's not terps. It still smells like something. 10%, 5%. You can go down to 0 depending if the material has no terps in it or not. So I process everything now. I don't just get to process fresh frozen all day. That's not how it works.
10% of the total yield of the extract.
Yeah, maybe terps, maybe less. And I've seen up to 50%.
50?
Yep. Which is
Wow.
a really terpy strain that has no THC on it.
Oh.
Right? That's how that balances out. Ben's came in at 30, 40% on a consistent basis for what the terps were. And his yields were always high because of the level of THC built into the plant itself.
So the Mendo Perps would be perfect for this because it has very low THC and very high terpenes.
you know what I say to cultivators now, like, I'm sure Ben knows this too, it's always good to have a friendship with a good extractor that has a BHO machine. Because if you ever have like an off round, which you're bound to have someday, to have one of us that knows what they're doing come in, we'll literally rescue you. And you'll still get the amount of return as you should have, or close to, because and you dodge a complete disaster of useless items. That can't be done by washing it. It has to be done with BHO, right? It has to be done with BHO. That's something that is great for us, is when we source material. A lot of the rosin strains out there, you know, like, there's not actually that many that are that great, to be honest, in yield, and we have, you know, there's a certain amount of finance that goes behind it, but we can split the hairs with the cultivators over it, because we'll take that greasy stuff that yields you 1%, you know, because for us it still yields as good, and it tastes great. So
I don't think I've ever done a headband rosin dab, to be honest with you, because the returns are terrible. But it does amazing in the BHO machines, and so many chem strains. Like, it's a shame, and what you're saying is 100% accurate. But in the BHO machine is like, you know, 15-20%, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's killer.
It's killer. It's killer. Ben and I have won many awards, more than I can count off the top of my head together, with those strains in California.
So I got a question for Ben real quick. Today, right now, like, how long do you like taking the headband and the dog to smoke for yourself? Like, where do you like it at?
All right. You know? Well, there's a lot of things that play into this question, right?
Sure.
And so the better the grow rooms get, and the better the mechanical things get, the shorter the plants take in time.
Okay.
That's been that's what I've gathered from information since I switched to Gavitas, since a single-ended HPS. And you were asking me about this morning, and I was saying, and so I said I used to go to Harborside all the time with my packs, and I would go every week, and they had a Quanticam machine on site. And so before they would buy your product, they would grind it up and put it in there. And so when I went from HPS lights to Gavitas, right? I went to, or whatever, double-ended to single-ended, or whatever it is. Single-ended to double-ended.
The other way.
I finished my first crop, and it was actually Chem Scout I went in there with, and they tested on their Quanticam, and they're like, dude, this is 12%. And I was like, 12%? What? And they're like, we're going to buy it this time, but fix it, dude. It was like before all the thing. You know, they're like, fix this shit. And so I started using SC Labs, actually, and what I was doing was harvesting weed as early as 42 days. And I would go 42 days, 44 days, 48 days, 52, 56, 63 was like where I was harvesting weed. Well, there was one cultivar I used as the experiment, and it was 42 days, 46 days, 52 days, 56 days is what I did. 56 days, it was 1% terps and like 16% THC. I was like, dude, this is trash, right? 42 days, and they kept gradually getting higher as I got down there. 42 days was 26% THC and almost 4% terpenes. So like, ooh, from that test, I started really playing around, right? And so like, I make seeds, I have bag seeds, I have all sorts of seeds that I can mess with, and so when I do selections, I do not let anything go. I don't want to grow anything past 56 days. So I just harvested headband at like 50 days last month, I think. Tested 28% THC, terpenes were there, everything was there. I sent Noel pictures of some of the plants recently. Like, I got it in tissue culture form when he wants it back. That's like my thing, is I like to keep things forever. So like, if you gave it to me, hopefully I have it for you 10 years down the line. And like, these things have happened before. People have been saved by their friends keeping the cuts for them. So yeah, dude, it all changes, and the better the equipment gets, the easier it is to grow weed. And that's why you're seeing way more facilities with good weed, right? Because like, man, I have AI watering my plants right now. It's so sweet. So yeah, we're seeing lots of things go quicker. go quicker. You know, okay, I have this thing called, I don't grow it anymore, but it was CNC. It was a Chem Scout pheno, and it was cookies and chem. And I took a picture of this thing. I harvested it 36 days, and Chem Dog responded to the picture and was like, dude, that is so early. Well, that thing tested like 5% terps and out of sight in THC. Like, and it was like a mistake why I'd harvested it that early, but I just tested it anyway, you know? Like, I don't pull weed at 36 days often, but I will if the weed's done, you know? Like, and some of the things I think about are like, how do we know without, like, all the years that we started this conversation with, we had no idea. We didn't know what our mold levels were. We didn't know what anything was. We didn't know how strong things were except for smoking it. So, like, with labs, we can, like, who's to say that the weed's not dead at 60 days? Who's to say that purple isn't decaying? I never go outside in my garden and eat purple squash, like, that's past ripe, you know, like, and so who was the decider that said 70 days was when that weed's done, right? And so I like to use tests, and I like to use all that stuff to figure out when it's done, and it's been really interesting over the years to see. And Illinois has, for Illinois right now too, we got low mold thresholds, and so the earlier and the fresher the weed is, the easier it is to pass the test. There's usually, like, the fresher the weed is, usually the more anxiety ridden the high is, and I kind of like that.
We once told me a story, Ben, when we were doing all the competitions. I was coming over hanging out. You had like a freezer in your house with some weed in it, and you told me about how you had taken the strain and put it in the freezer and had it tested at that moment. You know, you put it in the freezer, and then months later you took it out. Will you retell that one for me? Make sure I'm getting it right, because you're like, I took it out and it tested higher.
That's true. And so, well, what was happening was after those headband, purple tomatoes are only banger if the strain was like purple tomato, but the strain, that was just answering that comment, but they're like blasting in front of my face. Sorry, Noel, what was the question again? I got confused.
You noticed as you tested through, like, took a test of a strain, froze it.
Oh yeah. So it was when I was going to Harborside and selling. They were buying all the gear. I would take them all and put them in the freezer, because that's how I store my weed. And every contest that we won together and that I won all came out of a freezer. And so it's about moisture content, right? Because the dry air in a freezer is going to dehydrate the weed a little bit. And they would go from like 18 up to 22% over like an 8-week period of being stored. It was all that shit was interesting to me. Yeah, and I think it's moisture levels and things like that.
I remember that. Because you used to store your weed in freezers once you had it at the perfect level, but you weren't sure when it was going to get sold, you would freeze it. And I remember talking to you about it, and you would be like, the key is you take it out and you set it gently down, and then you don't touch it until it's completely defrosted. You don't bang it around while it's frozen, while you're going to knock off trichomes.
That's correct. I leave them there. And so when I had a 16 lighter and grew all these different varieties, and then when we started going to all those high time things, because, like, dude, we didn't do any of that, right? Like, we knew we had the best weed. Noel knew we had the best weed, or I shouldn't say the best, but we had really good weed. Francis, Gaby was a legend. Gaby had super skunk nugs like this big in 1995. Like, you guys have no idea what these pounds look like. And so, I mean, it was insane, right? Tupperware is just like, I saw them. And so I lost my concentration again. The freezer, it stops everything. So what I was saying, we go to these high times thing. I only had a 16 liter. I would grow batches, and I would do exactly what Noel said: dry it, cure it, freeze it, leave it there. And then I would go to these events, and I'd have this bag, and a lot of people know about my bag. And I'd have ball jars in the bag, and I'd break out 91, sour, Chem Scout, everything that I had. Yes. But some of them would be 2 years old, and nobody had a clue, ever. And that's how I kept my rotation so deep, is I would just have, like, a dedicated freezer that had all the weed in it. and it works. It
So,
absolutely works. So if you're a home grower and you got head stash, vacuum seal your weed and put it in the freezer.
Truth. Facts.
I want to respond to a couple of things that Ben said. Number one, I want you to open up your freezer and show me some old weed, because first of all, I haven't smoked your weed in a very long time, and I want to see what you're talking about at like the shorter amount of days. To be honest with you, I think that might be one of the most controversial things that we're going to say on this podcast, is that, you know, I mean, so testing higher in THC and terpenes maybe, like, because we don't put much credit in the test, right? Does that just prove that the test is invalid? Because, I mean, like, like, for instance, an easier one to quantify is sour diesel. If you're cutting sour diesel at 56 days versus 70 days or 77.
56 for sour is hard. You don't see that come out of our garden ever, really.
I'm not just talking about your garden. I'm just talking about cutting plants early versus later. And like, for instance, we had the guys from Budulero on, and we were talking about long flowering strains. And I actually just recently posted this as a short somewhere, that, you know, Notso Dog and Tony and Dave were saying that what happens with the longer flowering strains is that you get trichomes in different levels of ripeness. So you get the clear, the cloudy, and the amber. And because you get that difference, that's why you get a much different high. And so I don't believe I have smoked much Chem Dog that goes that fast. And I mean, but I do agree, all the weed that I did ever smoke of yours was fire. So
I'd also like to comment on your terpene levels at 4 or 5% terpenes. That is the highest level of terpenes you ever see in weed.
Well, of course, you're losing
the actual flower.
I get that you could be losing the terpenes.
That's amazing.
But you know what I would say is, we all have to do the same experiment and cut a bud off of a plant every, you know, couple of days, like you did, 42 days, 44 days. Take one plant. And so now everyone that's listening in the chat, this is all of our responsibility to do this together and then get back to us about what we do is, you know, try to take the satellites, right? The buds that are all more similar in size, and cut one at 42 days and then stagger them out longer and longer.
What
part
of the plant did you take off your cuts, Ben?
Time shouldn't
be
grown
cut faster. Right.
And I'm not saying plants that take a long time shouldn't be grown a long time, like sour. I don't really like to grow sour. I thought it was fun to breed with, but it takes too long for my setup. So I'm uninterested, right? And so like all those things, and that's what I was saying, is that I'll select plants to grow that fit into my schedule better. And like I have, you know, attention issues, and so I like things that are fast. I like to move through the process quickly.
When you're in a commercial operation, you have to. Because
you don't,
that's what I was going to say.
It doesn't make financial sense to grow a 100-day strain because you're not going to get paid more.
If you're in a commercial, if you're in a rec situation, then your THC numbers and your terpene numbers are absolutely key.
They are,
you know,
and
because
so you guys are harvesting for those,
THC.
you know. I'm almost on all like completely full clear to like slight amber if I'm looking through a magnifying glass, and you're wanting those darker. That's great that you like that high, and that's why I mentioned that I kind of like the racier, faster.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because Gabby and I have had a buddy. He's passed away now. He drowned a couple years ago, but he used to always tell me that he liked the dog at like 53, 55 days. He liked the buzz. He liked the buzz off it. He knew it had too many white hairs or this or that or what have you. But he was like, when I actually smoke it, he's like, I like it. I like how it makes me feel in that time frame versus me taking it longer. You know? You
said something really interesting right there. And so I'm 53 to 56 days on a Chem Dog plant. And then, and you mentioned the white hairs. And so I also used to grow Chem Dog for 63 days all the time for like years. And what about the fact that the plant's still activating after you cut it down? Right? Like, what about the 10 days that it's on the racks? I think there's still a lot of action going on right there until all the water that you want is out of the plant, right? And like, that's why I stopped the process with a freezer, because I hate oxidation and what it does to terps and what it does to the flower. Noel was talking about Chem 4. That, like, Chem 4 was terrible with that one. It turns like
golden
pale color. You know, I had this sour OG in the 90s that was so good, but it did the same thing, right? It turned that golden color and the smell goes away. And so that's, yeah. And so, you know, if I go 70 days, put it on the racks for, you know, I'm at 80, 85 days. Like, I think the plant's still reaction, because when I cut down Chem Dog and there's still a bunch of white hairs, after it's done drying, they're almost always all orange.
Orange, yeah. And I mean, as a long time like outdoor and depth grower in Mendo, there's been a bunch of strains, berry white, cherry pie, various different ones that will have these beautiful purples and lavenders all over them, and then they cure out to like a light golden or a light brown. And while they were growing, they looked visually incredible. And then if they get that color at all, it might smell amazing and be terpy as all get out, and then the broker looks at it and they're like, bro, you're trying to trick me. Why does it look like that? And that Chem 4 was doomed like that sometimes, because a lot of times it would cure a light golden, you know, and people did not like that color. That yellow brown spectrum was not desirable in the California market for it was doom.
That's what
because the California market ended up going somewhere else, and by the time it got there, that shit was
Cookie
yellow.
showed up. Yeah, Cookie showed up, right?
Yeah. Oh, so yeah.
So how long do you take your headband right now, Ben?
Probably 50 days, 53 days tops.
53 days.
Yeah. I have this other one called 23 that that I think just harvested at 48 days yesterday.
Wow. Hey, what are you smoking on right now? I haven't seen you in a long time.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Same things. Same things, pretty much. I'm doing, I just did some sweet sting dabs, actually. So talking about sour, man, after the fire, my ship burned down, and while we built out Illinois, we did a breeding project with sour, and I made like 18 new strains, and then went to Illinois and cracked all those. So like, I got all these things that I've been going through with, like, you know, all the new bangers that all the kids like, you know, like, so we got the purple things with Chem Dog, and did a 4,000 seed pheno hunt of all of them, or selection hunt or whatever, and came out with, you know, 12 or something. And then still just been trying to find, you know, new ones all the time.
Love it.
On to some like orange cookie crosses that I just broke out the other day that are just finishing up. I got Diablo back just recently.
I like that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, we had to crack a seed for it, lost it in the fire. Yeah, you know, like talking about like letting things out. Sometimes I get bummed that I didn't let some things out. Like I should have just let some shit out, right? But
I think I said that to you once before.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people probably said that to me before.
But you know, I also get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Of course not. Hold on.
You're muted, Gabby.
Why am I muted? Am I still muted?
I don't know.
What are you smoking, Gabby?
Gabby's got all
can
the
you guys
cuts
hear
over
me?
there.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
What are you smoking right now?
I get all my concentrates from Earl Hill.
Love
And
those guys.
I have this device. I asked you about it. You didn't respond. Have you seen this thing, the Pulsar Sipper?
I think I've seen
I'm giving
something
the
similar
advertising
to
here.
it. I think we have something similar. I think it's called a Zenko, which is what's here. Some
So
people though.
the
Same,
way
same.
this,
though.
what I like about this thing is that I can put a cart in it. And I put this sauce in this cart, and it's like the best vape cart delivery, right? Like when you put it in like the regular batteries, you're like sucking on it. It's like, this thing is crazy. You can, and it also has these heating elements, but I don't like these because they're not ceramic, right? So like I feel like it affects the flavor, but you know, these are high quality ceramic carts.
I'm fully lost, homie.
I'm lost too. Basically, what it boils down to is Gabby smokes on this thing all show, and about an hour and a half into it, he starts getting retarded.
It fills the cup. See that? It fills the cup with the smoke. And so instead of sucking on a pen, it's like taking a bong rip. That when you carb it, you just go. So it's like.
So in Jersey now, we kind of no one wants the carts anymore. They all want these, like the all-in-one things, right? make it easy for people to use. And I'm not a cart person, right? I'm not that person. But now that I started trying them and I understand the convenience of it more, I'm more sold on them.
It sucks, man, for two reasons. Number one, I used to smell like a roach everywhere I went.
But that's part of it.
And I didn't give a fuck. But like, now I kind of give a fuck more. You know, like when I'm going to my kid's school, I can't be reeking like an ashtray. My car never smells like an ashtray. You know, that's a plus. And the other thing is, and I know Noel will appreciate this, once you start consuming high terpene extract, it's really hard to smoke weed. Because
it's hard to smoke weed after you've done that.
Good. It tastes so good. You know, like I'm gonna grab the jar to show you what I'm smoking on, because I fill the carts by myself. It's from Earl Hill. And these guys make the fucking best concentrate. They grow all the flower organic in the ground, and then they run it all to concentrate. And they've been doing this for decades.
I'm a dinosaur. I still smoke flower.
I like flower, but it's just the convenience of this and not reeking, and the fact that it's high terpenes. It's hard, you know, because I used to just smoke, like you said, 10 joints. Used to wake up in the morning, roll up 10 joints, you know, and it's like.
I mean, right device for the right time, I think, in the end. But man, those carts, convenience. I do love the convenience of it.
I got a quick. Ben, are you using LEDs in your situation, or are you double-ended still, like you said?
No, so we got a craft license, and the rules are LED. So LED 2-tier. Yeah, man, it's been a learning curve.
And was that was very different than you had to learn how your strains reacted under that versus say like a double-ended, or what you used to do?
Absolutely right. Height is different. We're restricted on height a little bit in the racks, and then yeah, it's much different. It's taken a couple of years, but we're getting it ironed out.
I'm gonna pour it onto my computer. I'm like, look. Watch while I pour it on I'm trying to show you that it's liquidy, like it moves easily, but not like yours. Yours is full on, like you turn it over and it just like goes to the bottom of the jar. That's literal water. So do you find that product, what's the advantages and disadvantages of it being that thin? Because what I find, sometimes the oil that I get when it's really thin, it'll like run through the carts. The carts aren't made for that, right?
They aren't.
And then also it gets consumed that much faster. So like
that's not a problem.
This cart, because it's liquidy, okay, I mean, it's not too liquidy that it'll run through the cart, but it's way more viscous than like a distillate extraction or the normal carts that you see. So the carts burn quite quick, you know, but you get big rips on them because they're burning quick.
Tasty rips.
So since you're an expert, tell me what you think, and like, what are the advantages and disadvantages of because when I look at that, it looks amazing, and dude, I don't know, how many years ago was that at the Emerald Cup? It was over 15 years, right?
Almost. We started Nectars in 2012, so like there.
You never see an extract that's like.
You still don't. I stopped doing it for a little while. For a couple of years, I was just. But in 2017, my house burned down. I haven't talked about this at all. Only my close friends knew. And
my house burned in the same fires.
My house, yeah, we mentioned this, and my lab was there. You know, I had our lab set up there. I had my grow. We were 8 days into harvest. I had put everything I had as a human being, everything we had. We'd worked so hard for all that, and it was just yanked away from us. You know, and the insurance company screwed me. I was instantly homeless. You know, I took the land I had bought years and years and years ago. My community was very gracious to me, tried to help me out as best I could, but that was like, wow, what an incredible reset to happen at that moment when it was legal cannabis was coming. It was 2018. And if I can look back, and my hindsight is, it's like everything's meant to happen for a reason. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing what I was doing. I don't think I would have made it in California. I might have lost in the end, you know? That's hindsight. Who knows? I'm honored to have been there and gotten to live the life we all just lived, you know, because we can look back and it's super fond memories of how amazing it was and all the strains that we had. And like questions come up to me a lot amongst us as we sit on the couches and thrown on our tables is, man, was that weed really that good back then? I mean, is it as good as it is now? Like, is the weed better now? Or what, did we really have really good weed? I think the answer is we really did have really good weed. Legendary weed. Still do. So, like, the reflection of all this, and like, when I first heard that when I first started listening to the cast that you had put out about this, I was blown away. I looked at my roommate, Cody, and I was like, I think he's talking about me. It's like, me and my crew, this is talking about our crew here. Is this real? And I just want to like express my thanks to all the friends and family to me that supported me through all of those years. I want to express my thanks to all those haters that pushed me to do better and keep on going. I want to thank Ben and all the people I worked with and won all those awards with. I called those Dumbo's feather. Made me feel like I was doing the right thing, right? And those of us that have persevered, because we're in a time of just cannabis destruction on the West Coast. We all know this, right? There's so many of us in our age groups that lived a life that was amazing. Wouldn't trade it for the world. And we have all these entrepreneurs out there that built their own businesses and raised their families at home, got to do all this stuff. That's gone. Right? And now they're lost out there. And I hope that we all realize that cannabis was a gift to us, but we can move on. Maybe you can get into the industry like some of us have. You all are experts out there. Every single one of you that did that fight and grew that weed and all those things, you're experts at it. In a day and age of information is everyone's, and everyone's a genius because we got it at the fingertips in our hands. Like I have every fact possible in front of me right now. That does not include experience, right? The experience that we have is special, makes us unique in this cannabis world now. I hope that everyone out there recognizes that if you did this, how unique you are in this cannabis game, and don't let people take advantage of you. Don't let people steal your things, you know, be good, right? This is a gift. We are honored to be still sitting here doing it. I'm so proud to be amongst you guys as I do it. And like when we first did it, I got to meet all my heroes and hang out with all my heroes. And it wasn't like, oh my God, there's Ed Rosenthal. There was like, hey, Noel, how's it going? You know? I did so much work with Ben. I'm so glad that you joined us, Ben, because we did, you know, now I'm reflecting on all of it. We did so much work together in the past, and we're still friends. Because I lost a lot of friends in that time. I learned a lot of lessons. So many.
Lost a lot of friends, right, dude? Woo!
I lost a lot of friends, and I learned a lot of lessons. Life lessons. And that's why my perspective is what it is now. I am filled with gratitude to be here. It is a hard journey. If you're in cannabis and you're trying to make it, and you're those small farms that are trying to make it, man, you're choosing a hard, beautiful path. Right? It's beautiful. It's passionate. You know, good luck to everyone out there, because it's this game. It's not for everyone. It's not easy. You know, just now we're starting to see it's old enough that we see OGs emerging. The guy sitting here in front of you. You know, there's a group ahead of us that were elders that we might not ever see because they didn't get to do this kind of thing. We didn't have the technology. We got to grow weed by ourselves. We didn't have a community of people. You know, our community is much smaller than it is now. It was word of mouth.
Weird.
We couldn't communicate like that.
We
would see each other at shows.
Yeah.
I mean,
You spend the first half of your life trying to be anonymous. And then
Yes.
5 years ago, they're like, you should start marketing yourself. You should start talking. You should be public. You should. And it's hard because it's ingrained to be anonymous, you know, and all that. And I don't even think like the hard, like what you just said is really beautiful. But what's hard about it is that I don't even think like the rules that exist now are going to be the rules that exist in the future. So it's sort of like everyone in cannabis is trying to like hang on until like the larger states come up with rules that actually make sense, because it's very difficult right now with a blend of investors and they're expecting a certain rate of return, and the same mistakes keep happening in state after state, and there's just a lot of different pressures,
regulations that they put us through that they don't put other industries through.
You know what's funny about regulations is like regulations in cannabis made me feel sympathetic to lobbyists. Because essentially lobbyists are like, the business hires some lobbyists to be like, listen, go talk to these people making the rules and tell them to not fuck it up. This is how it needs to be. And you have all these old people right now that are regulating cannabis that don't understand it at all. You know, so even if they mean well, they could make regulations and rules and different types of things that are really onerous or really difficult and not what they're trying to do. And like, we could talk to them about why that isn't going to work, but it's hard, you know?
Yeah, it takes a lot of work. And I'll give it to New Jersey. They are trying to learn. You know, I see them trying to learn. It's hard for any state to really like let the leash go, let's say, because let's admit it. You let it go, we're going to run that thing. You know, we're free birds now. You did it.
I went out to New York the first year they allowed growing, and they let all these people grow. And then by December 31st, they had one store open. So there was like all these different farms, and there was one outlet that was legal to put it through.
Yeah, that's crazy. Jersey did an all right part of that, actually. We have like, I think it's close to 300 something dispensaries now and constantly growing. But what they did is that we don't have enough biomass. You know, we don't have the flood of biomass the West Coast has or any of the state has. It's rarer. Everything is grown indoors here. Very few farms are grown outdoors. There's very few farms that grow greenhouse weed here, right? So the concept of biomass is not completely, you know, like how they do it all is not the same as what we're used to at all. The prices are very high still across the board in comparison. I started telling them the prices, you'd be like, oh my God. You know, but it's because of scarcity, and they're slowly growing it. And we also don't let people grow weed at their homes in Jersey, right? So like, it is an interesting market here, and it's growing steadily. And I do see more and more old friends literally come here and pop in the market all the time. You know, like, you know, Nick T just showed up here too. 710 just showed up here. My friend Ben McCabe used to work for Resin Tech, just showed up here and working here. There's some really great small farmers here. There's some great locals doing it. It's good. We're just starting to build our culture up. New York is, who wants to be the king of New York? It's awesome. I just went to the High Times Cup there recently from New York, first High Times Cup. Packed. People were excited. And I know that we have a little bit of an argument with it from the West Coast, but I'm hopeful for what their relaunch looks like here.
You know what the best part of those things are? Is there's just a gathering of people.
Oh, you're so right.
You know, and like,
we're hungry for it.
It could be a whole bunch of drunk kids there and whatever, but like, there's always going to be a bunch of like OGs that show up too, and you could just hang out with them. You won't be alone for sure, right? You know, there'll be some other people. So
absolutely,
it's cool.
It's great.
You know who I ran into? Ken Estes. I ran into him at like one of the Hall of Flowers things, you know, a year ago or something. And it was cool, you know? And he remembered me because I used to sell him like concentrate. Actually, I think I invented the first moon rocks. So I should tell this story, even though I want to get him on the show again. But we had some BHO, and it was pure, and I brought it.
Big
to
of you
him.
to admit that, sir.
Yeah, I didn't say
Moon
that
rocks are not held in high regard.
I didn't say that I made it or anything, but we had some, and I'm trying to think. This was in, I think it was the year 2000. So Noel, check this out. You know Ken Estes?
I don't think I do.
He's in a wheelchair and he's an activist in the East Bay, and
He
owned
got
like
famous for bringing purple buds down to 3rd floor.
Granddaddy Purple.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did
That's
he
kinda
own?
where-
He owned a dispensary called. Did he own the Purple Heart? Did he own the Purple Heart?
I'm
We
not
used to
sure if
work
he
with
owned
the
the
Purple
Purple
Heart.
Heart.
His was on Shattuck.
Huh.
He
His-
just
his-
got, but that's
his-
how he got famous. Was he brought purple, like the Irk and the Granddaddy and that kind of stuff, down to 3rd
I
floor.
think he was famous before then.
Okay, there was another purple that doesn't get any credit that I want to talk about real quick.
All right.
Sure.
I heard
do
it
it.
called them, and someone mentioned it in the comments here a little bit ago. It was called a Mendo Perp to me, and it was
Oh,
weak.
don't get these dudes started on this one.
It was a weak Mendo. It was a weak plant,
Don't get friends.
and the terps were so good on it. And I was like, let me try it out. And so I grew like a little bitty roundup. I didn't go crazy with it. And I remember taking it down, and the way that it smelled in the air was hypnotic. You know, it's definitely like head snappers. Like, what the fuck are you smoking? And I went to a hip hop show and I had that weed and I smoked it. I had every single guy. I'm like, what the fuck are you smoking? I was like, it's called purple. Shortly after that, all these purple things started showing up. So I wonder where the place of that particular one goes in it. I never saw it again.
I popped
actually
that
not-
seed, dude.
I saw it in Hawaii, actually.
I actually like how Gabby
Hold
and
on,
I
wait.
became.
Is this a prank?
Yeah, I know.
No.
That's what I was like. What are
Is
you
this like,
doing?
Is this
dude?
like wait, hold
I don't
on.
know.
He's breaking out the script. Ask
Yeah.
him about the Mendo Perps.
Did I do that?
Is that what
good?
this is?
Yeah,
You don't
did.
know?
I don't. I just knew that I
Alright.
had it once upon a time. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead
it's
and
been.
tell
I
him.
don't need to tell the whole story because I've done it a bunch. But yeah, I popped it in like '98, I think. I gave it to Gabby with my phone number one day, and he literally smoked a joint of it and called me up and was like, "What the fuck is this? You should come have dinner at my house." What even is that?
Yeah, it tasted so good. Didn't get me high. Tasted amazing. Smelled amazing.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. You know,
Well, it would get you high. You would just have to smoke twice as much of it.
Fair enough. I smoked it for the flavor. The way that
if
smelled
you're
and the flavor
smoking,
was like,
if you're
wow.
smoking dog and headband and different stuff, it's not
It
not
didn't
going
get
to
me-
do
yeah,
much
That's what it was. Yeah.
compared to that. Or if you're into, but yeah. But
I
that
really
was
like it.
one of the first purples.
That's awesome.
That's
that you said that.
yeah.
It is pretty funny
I-
that's
I
totally
had.
random.
I just wanted everyone to know that I don't know anything about your history with all that stuff. That was organically said to you.
That's funny.
That is
It
pretty
was like
funny.
one of those. Since we're talking about
I
old
thought-
weeds in
I thought you were
California,
just
I'll
like-
throw a couple in there. That I was like, oh, this one was really good. I remember this one.
I thought you were just fucking around.
No,
No.
No.
Funny.
I had it. It went. It was. It lasted like a couple rounds, and everyone was over it.
What
That's
happened
funny.
to those weeds though? Like that one, lavender, like
Granddaddy Perp.
yeah.
I still have the Mendo P. I just gave it to Gabby like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago or something, or sometime recently. It's still vigorous. It still does good. It's still extreme. Like, to me, it's like his best of breeding plant because it has, like Noel said, it has this crazy aroma and it smells wild in the air,
Wild.
and it's really pretty, and it's low THC, so it's probably best like married with something that's stronger, and you're hoping to get the strong side from the one plant and then like the color and the flavor from the Mendo P. But like when I first had that stuff in the 90s, it was so different than anything else out there. It smelled and tasted crazy.
It stood out to me.
It
my
stood
memory
out.
Of it all.
That's for sure. That's hilarious. Yep, Gabby's getting to the point where he's going to barely be able to talk because now he's on his like 20th dab and he's going to start smiling.
I'm trying to keep
Well,
up with them. I
giggling.
don't know what this is.
Hey, we're like over 2 hours into the show, and Notso Dog hasn't mentioned how old I am yet. So
He's old, Ben. You should bring he's really old. You know?
Hey Gabby, when I'm talking about those super skunk buds in the Tupperwares in '95, right? Which cut was that? That was not the one you traded for. Was that the one you traded, G?
Yeah.
It was. You did that way better than they did in
I
Massachusetts.
I have this cut that like I can't verify it myself. I gotta give you some.
I grew Mass super skunk for until like 2006, I think.
Yeah, but you don't have the cut anymore, right?
I know. I only know one person that has the cut.
Well, we'll talk about it later. But anyway, this person gave it to me and doesn't want me to share it, and so it's difficult for me to verify it. I'm not 100% sure. And
The flower. Let's smoke it.
I have some. I'll send it to you.
Nice. Sweet, dude.
Yeah. We'll talk
Thanks.
about that after. But it's funny. Anyway, the one thing I want to tell you, Noel, I don't think, when was the first time you ever saw moon rocks?
14 maybe.
Medical dispensaries in Vallejo.
Yeah,
2014?
14. Yeah, I think 14, right around there, plus or minus a year.
I mean, I invented them. I think it was in 2000 or 2001. I'm going to take credit for this right now. It was kind of inadvertent. And, you know, moon rocks evolved to what they are today, but I created the first moon rocks. So what it was I went to all the dispensaries, including Cannabis, who were talking about him. And I brought them pure concentrate, just like open blasted, you know, heated in some water and whipped a little bit and made like a gooey
as
ball.
was the standard at the time.
Right, exactly. But this was this was in 2000. So I brought it to him, and we would smoke it in a crack pipe. Okay, we'd like drip it down in there, okay, and then light it on fire because, you know, the stuff was just like a mess. You know, you couldn't put it in a joint; it would just absolutely ruin it. You know, probably because it still had a significant amount of butane in there, right? But anyway, so we would smoke it, and they would all love it, but they said, we can't sell this product here because, you know, it looks too much like we're smoking crack, and this is a medical marijuana club. You know, we can't have this stuff. So now I have this concentrate. I don't know what to do with it. And I start like mashing trim into it. Okay, like as hard as I can, putting as much just trim into it as it will accept until you had like a chunk, like made it into like a brick. And you could literally rip a piece off of it and stick it in and it was green because the flower was green. And so you could literally rip a piece off of it and then put it in a pipe and smoke it. And
I can say, dude, that when Gabby and I first took BHO that he was just talking about down to the clubs, most of them had never seen it. We would make BHO, like we were always scared. We were too scared, Noel, to like do it in a garage. We thought we'd blow ourselves up. So we did it like
people were blowing themselves up.
A football field away from Gabby's house, like on a hill, like away from any electricity or anything that could possibly like mess us up or what have you, you know? And yeah, the open blast era where we were just learning about how to make the soup. And one thing I should say is like the whole dab revolution, I think was mostly based around like people coming up with like the accoutrements to smoke it, like the bangers and how to scrape it and the nails and all the different stuff that like made it functional.
Shout out to
and it's still changing, right?
We discovered
Yeah, but I just mean like before any of that stuff existed, it's like you had it in like a little plastic container and it was a mess and you'd scrape some out and smear it on top of your pipe or your bong head or something. It was just like there wasn't.
I used to cook it off of coals, hookah coals.
Yeah, that was like one of the early ways. That was one of the early ways we did it. We'd like light a coal, and your lungs would seize because we didn't know about purging. There wasn't any like vacuum purges or anything like that. It was like what Gabby said. It was like you'd put it in some water and bubble it off as best you could.
The water was hot.
Yeah,
We used
and it
to-
had a
we used
lower
to use hot
boiling
water.
point.
I'm glad we're past these times.
Yeah,
Me too.
Me too.
It was learned.
Me too.
But I wanted to know if Noel had heard of anyone doing something like that before I did. That way, for the record, I could historically take credit for it.
I wouldn't call
Wait, I
what you
didn't
made
finish telling you the story.
I wouldn't call
When
what you made a moon rock, but
No, listen, it looked like like I said, moon rocks have evolved, right?
that would be the Neanderthal form of the moon rock.
That was that was the Cro-Magnon.
That's me.
Yes, I
My
will.
lady
I will
called me
agree with that.
Neanderthal all
100%.
the time.
Cro-Magnon
That's
moon
totally
rock.
me. But the point is, when I brought it to them like this, they loved it. They loved it, and it was all trim. It was all trim that was held together. It was like 20% oil, 80% trim, and they loved it. I couldn't, because we had these tiny little things we would, it's like, anyway.
When
I
first
invented
moved to
moon
the Bay,
rocks. You heard it here.
there was a guy before me that I had met a guy at a dispensary that was selling like a liquidy thing like what I have here. It was super liquidy. It was like $100 a bottle, maybe $150 a bottle, and that's what I was dropping on the coals. And he was like an old head that was hanging out at the dispensaries at the time, and it stopped happening because I think he died in a car accident or something. But his was an ether extraction, and I've never seen anyone do an ether extraction again.
When did you move to the Bay?
I moved there in '98.
98.
First time I think I smoked BHO was 96. I was living in Tahoe. We were broke off like skiers, snowboarders, and my roommate came back and said he had met a dude that was in a school bus on West Shore, and he had bought this gram for like over $100, and it was this solid white rock, and we had never seen anything like it. I don't know if I ever have seen anything like it before, and we did hot knives of it, and we got freaking ripped, dude. And that's the only thing I can think that it was. Like, it was super pure, like white rock THC. It tasted just like weed, and it was super strong.
One thing I should say real quick is that coming from Chicago to California, I always noticed that my weed was like frostier in the wintertime because like we did vented gardens back then and the air was just so cold, right? And when Ben was in Tahoe, he would grow the dog up there, and I was convinced that like his high altitude cold air dog was the nicest dog, and we couldn't replicate that in Mendo or Sonoma because it's so mild. And he was up there in the cold, and I would look at his weed and I would be like, dude, it's so nice. And, not that Ben's not a good grower or anything like that, but I was like, it's the cold. It's that like frozen dog, that just loved it. And when he lived in Tahoe and grew ends up there, it came out gorgeous. Gabby and I used to like check in with him to make sure when he was coming down so we could get some of it. And Gabby would go up there and make a little pilgrimage, go skiing for a day or two, grab some herb, bring it back. Those were good times.
The first time I met Gabby, was in Tahoe at my house, sleeping on my couch, and he was hella grumpy, and we got in a fight over the best weed in the world, and the best weed
That sounds about right.
Nope, Gabby was still on the couch. I was arguing with somebody else about the best weed in the world, and the best weed in the world, to me, was this thing called Chem, and so we called it Chem 1 when I was young. And so I'm going, there's this weed Chem. And the dude's like, dog, it's dog is the best weed in the world. And the girl I was seeing was like, hey, dude, go get your shirt. I was like, what? Go get the shirt G gave you. And I walked down into the living room. It was like an A-frame, held up the shirt, and we go, Chem Dog. And Gabby, sleeping on the couch, just springboards up into the sitting position and goes, G? You guys are talking about the same weed. I will never call Chem Dog Chem. It's dog. It's organic. It's dog. But you guys, and so we were on a full-blown argument about the best weed in the world, and we were talking about the same exact weed. And then Gabby confirmed it.
Gabby would,
that's a good story right there.
He's like,
Gabby
there's
is
no
the
way I'm
dude that
calling
made
my.
the trade for the super skunk, you know, like it doesn't get any closer to the story, and then you can
Yeah.
call G up, and he's like, "Oh my God, you met Gabby? That's a trip, right?" Because it was before cell
Yeah.
phones and like whatever.
Yeah. Oh,
I
that's
used to
so
always
good.
say that like we're
That's
all
so
like
good.
3 hippies removed from each other at most.
At
You
most.
know, at
Oh
most.
yeah, right.
Like you go
At
back
most.
far enough, dude, and like there's
Mhm.
these weird little connections. Gabby used to tell me that same shit. He goes, the name of the weed is Chem Dog, but I grow it organic, and I'm not calling my weed Chem. My weed's organic, so I'm just gonna
Okay.
call it the
Yeah, yeah.
dog.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
like for me,
Yeah.
right? Like I owe Gabby a lot. Gabby brought my favorite weed
Oh, just
to the
stop.
West Coast. Like,
Stop.
no, can't. Like nobody, people don't give Gabby the credit for like Chem Dog really coming to the West Coast was all Gabby.
Okay.
Freaking
Then
awesome.
we'll end up going back to nobody here in the chat would have a clue what the Chem 91 was if it wasn't for Ben.
Hey,
Like,
at least
and
I
that-
had
and you know what?
part
A
in
lot
this
of
thing you
people-
worked so hard.
Hold on, let me just say this. A lot of people give me a lot of credit for what I did for the Chem 91. And for the record, I 100% think that what I did may have been a preface to what Ben did, because he was the one that got it out there. He's the one that set it on the path to being legendary. Okay. Prior to that, it's just head stash weed. That's what it was. So Ben he doesn't do these podcasts. He's not the one to go and try to take the credit, but like he's the one that just he goes, G's the man, right?
She's the
But
man.
like I
She's
said,
the man.
and I agree.
But hey,
G's
I
the
grew weed
man.
in-
But like my part of the story is kind of lame. It's like I say, it's like
No.
the beginning of the story. You know, I'm
No.
taking this road
No,
trip,
it's
and
history.
then I'm
No.
out of the story. I don't, like.
Gabby, you drove
Unless-
3,000
unless
miles
people-
across the country.
Yeah,
to
we
get-
should talk about this for a minute because the kids need to know if they're listening because like this is nowadays people are just mailing clones. They make a tube so you can mail the clone.
Yeah.
People fly on planes. People like drive them wherever. If you got caught with that clone in 1993 driving across the country, you're gonna get cinched up for sure. And then G, if you ever went to his house in Western Mass and back in the day, like this dude like lived in a farmhouse and didn't have a charcoal filter, and like you rolled up anywhere near the front door and you were like, what is going on? Like it reeks here. And he's just like, oh, it's the season, but like you had to duck and hide to do any of this shit, or you're gonna go to jail. Like that was going on. Like it
Gabby
wasn't
drove
about
3,000 miles.
with it in his car
East.
through Nebraska,
East.
through Illinois, through all
Utah.
the places that were gonna
hold
snuff
on.
and cuff you.
He
Yeah.
brought the Francine east, so that's risky. Got plants, and then drove 3,000 miles back, and basically every single state that he drove through was varying degrees of highly illegal.
Mandatory minimum type shit.
Minimums.
Like 1993.
Nevada, Nebraska, these awful states. And so you can
Damn.
minimize it all you want, dude, but it was like basically the only reason, like I honestly think all the credit to Greg, but you played a big role in it surviving.
Absolutely.
Like a giant role in it surviving. And so I don't know. It's just like that kind of thing. And like for all the people like in the little short we did of the 56 where Noel jumped in and all that, it was funny because it made me feel so old because there was all these people that were accusing me of being a liar, where they were like, weed was never $400 an ounce, dude. You are tripping. No one would ever pay that much. You are out of your fucking mind. You're a liar. And I'm like, Gabby used to take his entire crop down to the Warfield and sell $400 ounces to hippies outside of a Jerry show. Like the frickin' OG you got. Insane prices early on. Like that's just weed. Like the AJ Sour. AJ told me it was like he got $500 an ounce for the bottoms and $1,000 an ounce for the tops.
Truth.
And it flew off, and it flew. And if you didn't want to pay it, there was tons of people that would. So eat a dick.
Oh, if you
I
want to
used
hear
to
some
sell
stories,
everything.
we haven't had AJ on here yet. You need to get AJ on here, dude. He's got the funniest stories of all time.
He sold
Yeah,
them
but
for
I mean
10
that's
grand.
that like
He
it's
sold
like people
3 pounds for like 45 one day. I think he told me one time because it was someone wanted him so bad.
3 for 45.
like, dude. So one of the very earliest guys in OG, bought 2 pounds of OG in like, I don't know, 98 or 99 or something in LA. And he spent $8,000 a pound, and he felt blessed to get it. And he said he went home and he rolled a joint, and as he was breaking up a joint, he said a seed rolled across his table. And he looked at it and he was like, dude, I just found a seed in $8,000 a pound weed. And he's like, so every single bud before I sold it, I picked it up and I squeezed it and I looked and I made sure it didn't have any more seeds in it. And he found like 4 seeds in those 2 pounds, you know, because he spent 2 days before he even sold it. Like, are there more seed? I can't, there's no way I'm going to be able to get this cut, but maybe I can find a couple seeds, you know?
But scarcity and like the geographic region that those dudes had to grow in, you know, like New York City, whatever they were doing, like all that's expensive, hard, and risky. And so.
And the day we didn't have carbon filters? That's crazy. Super risky.
Especially growing the skunk.
Yeah.
All of it.
That was
That's
like
what killed the skunk. That's what actually killed the skunk, is
heart
because you
attack.
couldn't grow it. It was too skunky. You know,
So just to finish the 91 story is, I like drove it across country. Let's say that has some value, and then Ben made it famous. So like me personally, I would have rather been the guy that made it famous. You know, that to me sounds cooler. You know, so. But
I don't know if I don't think I made anything famous, dude. I just grew some killer cuts and tried to, you know, do my part to uphold the things I was asked.
So,
we were all blessed.
You know, nobody ever hears your part of the story. That's why I want you to do the podcast another time and we can tell more stories about being together at, you know, Jerry and the mountain. And
I agree on that.
You know,
Have your
People don't
tables,
know.
the line you used to wait in, dude, to get the table.
Ben has an awesome story. He's got an awesome history. He's fucking important. He grows a lot of good weed. He's still growing good weed. In every era I've known him, he's grown good weed. He grew good weed in his garage. He grew good weed in his bedroom. He's grown good weed rec. He grew good weed in Oakland. You know, he has always had a really good palate. We were talking about like sommeliers or whatever. He's always had an excellent palate for what actually is good weed, not just hype. You know, if Ben tells you it's good weed, it's good weed.
I mean,
he will sit there and he will be like, people will be like, this is the hottest thing ever. And he'll look at you and be like, it's shit. So if he thinks it's good weed,
I'm blunt.
I've never had Ben be like, this is amazing weed, and me be like, not agree. He's got a really good palate, and he's been around a long time, and he deserves his flowers for all that, for sure.
So
100%.
I want to tell you about the last time I had Ben's weed, just to give you an idea how long this is and why we have to change that. The last
Don't
time
you live
I
next
had,
to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
And we
The
always
last time
say,
I had-
dude, let's link up this week.
I'm just
All right.
checking. Just checking.
All right. We
Go
have
on,
to.
sorry.
We have to know. Everyone has to call us out. The last time I had Ben's weed was in 2017. Okay.
Whoa.
It was October 9th, 2017. The reason why I know it was that day is because my house burned down the day before.
Yeah. That was a shitty day.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
Like-
Wait a second.
So like,
God
your,
damn
hou-
it.
your house burned. Yeah, same, right, Noel?
Yeah, same
So,
day.
check it out.
Damn it.
So you just lose everything, right? Mike, I had a baby. She was 3 weeks old at the time. Okay. And I have no fucking weed. Like when I like literally felt like I needed it more than ever. You know, like I feel like I abuse cannabis every day and I don't show the plant the love and respect that she deserves because I just fucking just smoke it, you know, right? But like at that moment, I needed weed. And Ben like had somebody bring me like a 1/4 pound of herb, 10 different types of concentrate, dab rig, torch, all the fucking tools I needed, pipes, you know, and like, I will never forget. And the thing is, because it was like immediate. It wasn't like a week later, you know, it was like the next day I was staying in a hotel, you know, and he had that weed sent to me. So, and, you know, even then we weren't talking that much. Not that we don't love each other, because we do, we were just busy, you know, doing different shit. And he still fucking said, Gab's down, I gotta do what I can to take care of him. So, I love you, buddy. And like, I absolutely want to see you like the next couple days. Are you right now, like, home in Sonoma County?
Yeah, right by you. Yeah.
Okay. I can't do it
but
today.
That's all I got, dude. I got weed. I do weed shit, so like that's how I help people, bro. Weed. You go to the potluck, I bring weed. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not probably gonna make you cook.
I mean, like, I don't need weed, but I really want to smoke your weed. You know?
No,
so it's kind
we're
of
gonna
selfish,
blaze, dude.
But like, yeah. So
No, but I'm serious. Like Gabby and I would wait. We would plan like when Ben was pulling down, even if we had our own weed, and he would go visit and bring home weed, because we'd be like, oh my, I want that Tahoe dog, dude. Oh my God, give me some of that Tahoe
I had
dog.
other friends growing in Tahoe, and the shit always grew fire, and I think it was something to do with the altitude and the cold weather. Their gardens were generally like not that nice. Like our rooms would be way nicer down here, and we would like be on it, and they would be fucking around all day skiing, and then like barely taking care of the plants at night before they passed out the next day, and they were getting the best weed, you know. So like I think high altitude, dry air, like.
Oh man, you just made me miss
fire.
A couple of years for sure, bro. But like, yeah, you guys are down here crushing us on yields and stuff, but yeah, the open air rooms were pretty sweet, dude. With, you know,
nobody that's watching now gives a shit about yields. Most of the people only care about quality.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, we have that going.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun time, man.
So, do you have any stories you want to tell us before, or we should put it out there if people want to ask questions?
We should just have a whole Ben-centric episode at some point when he wants to.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've been wanting him to do this for a while, and somehow we convinced him to do it today. I think we kind of tricked him into thinking we weren't gonna focus on you as much as we did.
I thought you were gonna ask me some questions. I was gonna dip, but here I am still.
There you go. 2.5 hours in. I gotta pick my kid up from school in a second too. So.
Alrighty. Well,
but
you can dip, buddy. Noel, do you have any stories that you want to tell about the early days? You know, anything that you want documented? Because one thing is, I really wanted to, and we can do this again too, bro. You know, this was just, you know, it happened fast, but I always want people to document their story. I think it's important because, you know, we're forgetting shit. And before I let you tell your story, I'll just say something really brief. I had forgotten something, okay? And Francis one day told this story, and I was like, holy shit, I could not believe that I could not remember this. And this is why I feel like we have to document these stories before we forget them and we want to pass them out, right?
Help drive that.
But,
I think these conversations help jog the memory.
I thought you said drive, because that's what happened was Notso Dog was in jail. And I took the drive to bail him out. And he asked me, he said, hey, do you remember when you picked me up in jail at, where was it, Francis?
Orange County.
In Orange County. And I was living in Willits at the time. And I said, no, I don't remember picking you up at jail. And then Francis was like, yeah, you drove down in your Silverado and you picked me up, and I got out of jail at midnight because I was being good, and they let you out at 12:01 on the day you're supposed to be released if you're behaving. And he was like, you were out there waiting for me. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, now I'm kind of remembering it, you know, but like, for me, it wasn't as important as it was to Francis.
Yeah,
For me, I was like,
really was excited to get out of jail.
yeah.
I didn't like being in jail. I was in jail for weed. I didn't really like being in jail for weed. And Gaby came and picked me up, and like within 10 minutes, I was smoking dog out of a Bob Snodgrass top hat skull pipe, you know, and we were bumping tunes and we were chatting, and I don't know, I did like 96 or 7 days or something like that. And it's true. They told me like they when they give you a release date, if you're good, they'll release you at like the first minute of the date they have to release you, right? So like 12:01, they'll let you go. But if you're a dick and they don't like you, they'll hold you till 11:59 p.m. Right? So it's like, yeah. So they liked me, thank God, and they released me. And yeah, Gaby was there. I walked out and midnight, and all of a sudden I was back, and I was listening to the Grateful Dead, and I was smoking out of a Bob Snodgrass skull top pipe, and I was smoking the dog, and we were on our way back home. And I have never stepped foot in Orange County since. I drive around it. I have resentment.
Yeah, I can
That's
understand
fair.
that for sure. So, but when you told me the story, you told it a little different. You said we were listening to something else on the radio.
Oh, actually, yeah,
like
that was the
stuck in
weirdest
there.
part. I got in the car, and Gaby had it on some, like, I don't know, some rock station or something, and they literally were playing Patsy Cline's Walking After Midnight. And it was like 12:02, and I just got out of the clink, and I was like free, and Gaby was in the car, and we had weed, and like felt, you know, it was, yeah.
Well,
It's that occupational hazard. Caught with cannabis.
my point into going off onto that tangent was that I realized I'm forgetting shit. You know, so you need to document some stuff before you forget it. So tell us some like old stories that we need, you know.
Sure.
documented.
I have a good old story. When I first started growing weed, you know, what inspired me to grow weed. I did it in college. I lived in Rochester. I went to school in RIT, and I built a patchwork grow room. I got plywoods and shit off the side of the road to build a room. And then I got patchwork lights. I got knocked down lights at my college, 1,000-watt HPSs, bought new bulbs, wired them myself. And started growing weed, and I tried all the different types of techniques, you know, organically, hydroponically, organic hydroponic, all those things in my attic. And that right there led me down the path where I sit now. I don't get to grow cannabis anymore, but I manufacture a lot of it. I get to see a lot of it pass through my hands. And I think when I reflect on all of this now, it really, like, it wasn't something, I never thought it would ever be this. We'd ever sit around and like people be interested in listening to our stories about what we did or what we didn't do, right? And again, I'm overwhelmed and feel blessed to do what we're doing now and be amongst you guys. I'm at a loss for like what else could I really say about this. Shout out to, again, all my friends and family, of course. Thank you so much for supporting me and understanding when I made mistakes and supporting me throughout this whole time, and I appreciate all that. Expect big things from us, always. Expect big things constantly, you know. We're always coming with something new. We always Ben said it to me one day, pushing the envelope. You know, I think that spirit isn't going to die with us. We're going to keep on going and keep on doing it, and hopefully you see new strains and new concentrates and all the like beautiful things this industry could really come up with. It's so young in its maturity. You know, we're like 15 years in-ish, let's say, for real. You know, and so everyone hold on, be good to each other. All right.
Hey, Notso Dog, do you have any questions for Ben or Noel about the 56-day headband? I know you've been thinking about it for the last week.
I mean, I was curious when he got, I think I got it in 05 or 06. I don't know when Ben got it.
I think I got it in like either 09, like or 07. I was late.
You were late to it?
It leaked down to the Bay Area, to some of my fish friends in the Bay. They still have it. That's how it leaked up to Vermont.
That's how I got it. Was
No.
I got it? I didn't. I mean, obviously, I didn't get it from you. I got it from one person removed, but they got it from you. You know, and it was always Noel. I was always told that like how I got it was I don't know if it's true or not, but like how I got it was like the wrong tray of clones got passed out.
Oh, I wanted to say something about that.
That's what I
Okay.
meant earlier when I was asking you about it.
I actually at the time my friend Noah, who lived with me, I asked because I knew I was going to do this. I called him and was like, did you remember this like little situation maybe that we had, you know, some sort of thing with a clone tray of some sort? And honestly, I thought it was with David. And like sadly, David and I we fought about it, and we weren't friends for fucking years, which was, you know, us, whatever. I
didn't know that was David.
Maybe it was. That's why I'm like that when you're saying like it's all fuzzy to me about those things because and I want to be really clear. David and I are good friends now. We got over our differences, so you know, I hope everyone can learn something from that. You know, get over your different like life. We've been lifelong friends now, right? So we took a couple year break, but we got over it. But that's just proof of how serious it was to us at the time.
So the funny thing is,
was to have that.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I've been talking to David about this. Okay.
Great.
Only because, only because I told him you were doing the podcast, right? And he said, you know, because he told me he's known you since you were kids, you know? And so like, I'm like, hey, the podcast is happening today, you know? And like, I had mentioned to him before about like, this post on Instagram has like, it's going to have 100,000 views probably within a week. And, well, like within another week, because it's already got over like pushing 80,000. And so I was like, yeah, you want to watch this? But I didn't know he was part of the story, or I would have made him come on the show too. He was in the chat.
Maybe we could do it another time.
Were in the chat.
Yeah.
But
the funny thing about that
clone, we were neighbors.
This is how small the world is.
The funny thing about that clone tray leaking was that weed was so good, it did end up leaking to like 6 or 8 people, and then it just straight stopped because it didn't leak from there. Like everyone that got it felt that it was so special to get it. Honestly, like it was such good herb, you know, and it was literally the kind of herb that you could monocrop your room and people would come to your door begging, wanting it really badly.
People
like, tell me when it's done. And
They used to pay me up front.
Yeah, the people would come to your door and be like,
they leave money. They come and buy it and they leave money with me.
Yeah,
like,
make sure it doesn't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so there was friends of mine that like, that's all they grew for years because it was just so potent and so good, you know? And it was like, I'd always heard rumors that it might have been like the Kush, but like how we got it was like I said, it was like a clone tray accident was what I was always told. So I never knew like who brought it, you know, like I didn't know you know, and then I was like, well,
it was HWC. He gave it to me.
What was it called before it got up here? And they were like, oh, it was supposed to be the Kush. And I was like, which one? And they were like, the first one.
There was only one at the time.
And there was only one.
Yes, there was only one.
You know, when there was only one. So, and what's interesting, let me just say one more thing. I have a buddy in Southern California that used to buy personal sacks off of Josh fairly regularly in like 98, 99, right? And a few years ago, I gave him that cut to see what he thought. Mm-hmm. And he told me, he's like, honestly, dude, he's like, it is either it or the closest thing to it of those sacks I used to get back in the day. He's like, it's so good. He's like, it's the Kush, in my opinion. It's the one, you know? And so that's just like anecdotal or whatever, but it's like, you know, it really is. It's a killer cut. I'm so stoked that you brought it to NorCal, and it leaked a little bit here and there to people because it wasn't
fire. Leaked. It was intentional.
It was
for the most part. It started intentionally, and then if it was leaked, it was given to someone that, you know. Let's be honest. You give a strain to someone, and you're like, you can't give this to anyone. They're giving it to their boy.
Everybody's got a best
But
friend.
if you and then you're like, if you give this to someone finds out, you're fucking dead. You're dead to me. I would destroy everything. But you always do give it to that one person. True?
100.
For the most part, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah,
when the dog leaked, it caused big fights. Gabby was pissed. Ben was infuriated. Like it leaking out a little
Do you have
bit was
any
like,
idea how it leaked, Ben?
When? What
I
year?
don't know. Like beyond us.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to say it on the podcast
saying
because
it.
I'm
But
not
the,
going to say it. But yes,
Okay.
but I just remember,
I meant
maybe
it on a bigger scale than that, though. I wasn't actually trying to bring him up. I thought it might have been somebody else.
no, I just remember you were so mad, and then obviously you guys had your battles or whatever.
Gave shit away a lot, too, or whatever.
What'd you say?
Theft can happen.
Yeah.
All sorts
Right.
of things.
Truth.
That's
All
what I
sorts
was
of
saying.
One thing about
100%.
Headband, though, people would beg for that thing so bad, and then if somebody did get it, it could be like their nightmare at the same time. Like a shitty grower gets that cut, dude, and they are pissed. Like, it's so hard. It's so hard to grow. It's
expert level. It is.
Yeah,
It's an
I was
expert
about
level.
to say it's an advanced cut, like
Just
It
like
needs
the
a
Chem
certain
91,
kind of
right?
water. It needs a certain kind of watering.
it sure
It
does.
needs certain types of
You-
everything.
You
It
you
gets
fuck
hard to
up on
put
the
in.
watering.
Yeah, it's hard to put in and mix with other things. It's hard to mix with anything that yields awesome because you're like,
Yeah.
That's actually a point I think we should make really strongly to people because people are going through it now with sour and other shit. People don't get that super valuable cuts back then. Like we used to monocrop them and take time crop after crop to figure out what went right and what went wrong, and you dialed it in. And you have to kind of, with some of those old cuts, cater to its needs to get it to express the way you want to. And if you just throw a couple of them in, like on the side of your purple candy gas or whatever, and you're hoping it's going to come out, it's like it needs to be catered to. And if you don't do what it wants you to do to it, it won't be the same weed. And then people were like, oh, this weed is bunk. It's not what it is. It's fucking da 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 da. But we used to baby that stuff, and we used to pay a lot of like observational attention to like what made it happy and what made it not. And when it came out not happy or when you missed, you would be so bummed.
Let's touch on the death of sour, really, because I remember it just slowly fading and
Haven't
slowly
you watched
fading.
our most recent podcast?
I haven't. I didn't watch
I
it.
haven't either.
If only I had time to do that, I would. I would love to. I will
Put it
catch
on
it
the
now when
next
I'm
time
on
we're
on
on.
vacation here.
Riff
But-
on the death of sour, whatever you want to say. Go for it.
My thought is it had to do with HLV. We didn't know that it even existed at the time.
oh, that's a
And your
whole
plant
nother
just got
story.
weaker and weaker, and you're taking one, you're going to switch your mom's out, and you take a clone off one that has it, well, now you have it forever. It's in everything.
I think HLVD is a definite reason why there was a massive loss of sour diesel
genetics.
and why a lot of people
Yeah.
threw it away. I also believe that it has been cleaned up with tissue culture. I have one that came out of tissue culture, and it consistently tests clean of HLVD. So,
And then
I've
people,
seen-
but the one thing that we talked about in the last show, and I want to get your comments on this, both of you, is that people expect a cannabis plant, which is an annual plant. It's designed to grow and drop seeds, okay, and then die. And they expect this plant to live for 20, 30 years and not change. And so what happens is all these plants are aging, and some age better than others. The really cool thing is like Chem 91 has seemed to age amazingly graceful. Like I've seen some Chem 91 grown recently that's as good as any Chem 91, if not better. I mentioned them a few times. I want to make sure I get his name right. I think it's plant-based on Instagram.
I'm friends with him, yeah.
Oh man, I'm not sure if it's.
I mean,
him or
wouldn't
some-
that-
no,
is-
it was Killer Bees. Killer Bees. This guy grew the fucking most beautiful Chem 91. I can almost say I may have never seen any as pretty as that. And then, I got to smoke it, and it's beautiful.
Getting
sour
back to
diesel
what
hasn't aged as gracefully, but it's still the sour diesel.
getting back to what Ben said is like he mentioned he had to change how he grew and when he harvested and different techniques when he went from single-ended to double-ended. And he also mentioned when he went to Illinois and by law and everything, he had to grow under LED. Even strains he was very much used to took a couple of years to dial in food, watering times, all the different little stuff you have going on. And so, like, I try to tell people, I'm like, if you were used to getting like sour diesel back in the day, that shit was probably grown under single-ended HPSs with GH, 3-part, maybe in some cocoa fiber, like some peat moss perlite, and now you've got it like under LEDs in living soil with all these different accoutrements and like room, like, you know, controls,
VPD.
and figuring out how to dial in a strain with the gear you have is important. You know, it's not like if, like, I mean, Ben could talk about this for a second, but he just mentioned he had to change how he grew, what times they finished, probably how high he fed, how often he fed. When he switched equipment, he sort of had to relearn to some degree, like what he knew where he wanted to get the weed to express. Now, how do I get it to express like that with this equipment that I now have? And it's not just cookie cutter, in my opinion.
It's not, but I'll say this about sour. I had one from till 2014 that I purposefully let go. I don't know why. Just wasn't into it, and I never really liked sour, but this cut was freaking awesome, and it was so fun to grow. It harvested huge. It worked in the nets really well. It was a great time, but not that many people wanted to smoke sour in like 2014 or whatever, right?
The purple's really kind of crushed it out.
Screw it, I'm gonna let this go. So I did get the sour back to make all those crosses I was talking about before, and I've, like I said, I have let it go to 63 days. And I tissue cultured it, the whole thing, Tamarastem, and I hate that cut. And like, I knew it had the viroid before.
I thought you were about to tell us how awesome it was.
I can't stand it. Like, it's terrible. It's nothing like the one I was growing in 2014, which is what I would say is sour, right? I mean, I shouldn't say it's nothing like it. It's far from it, and I'm bummed about it, really, because if that's, and then everybody's like, it's a fake cut, it's a fake cut. Well, I went to like over to the real folks' house and got the one that they thought was real, and so, you know, and I see the expression in the seeds I made where I see sour, but I do this sour cut that I've done it like 3 times or something, and some folks in Illinois like it, but I'm having a hard time getting behind it.
So you're talking about when you breed with it, the expressions that come out of it.
I've seen almost straight sour plants come back that I've not selected, but I'm like, oh, that's cool, right? And then I grow this thing.
But that means that you're using the right cut, doesn't it?
I don't know.
I used to see the structure, but not the scent.
So yeah,
so I used to. I see
the
a lot of
structure used to be so fun, dude. Like this really branchy, like strong, and I just don't have that anymore.
I forgot to mention that when I got the sour the first time, in 2000-ish, I gave it to a group in Santa Cruz too. My like spun tribe in Santa Cruz, and I think that they kept it for well into the teens. In 2000, middle of 2000, somewhere in the teens, I think they lost it. But it was another valid cut that I had gotten from my friend HWC at the time. I don't know, what do you think of that cut, Ben? Be honest.
I don't remember.
Perfect.
I wanted you guys to answer the question about, do you think it's reasonable for plants to not age, particularly without tissue culture?
Like, I don't even really believe in the tissue culture bullshit, to be honest. I mean, I believe in it, but I don't believe it's like this like rebirthing of a strain.
It's not a fountain of youth. But you know what it does?
It's not a fountain of youth.
No, so it's not a fountain of youth.
It cleans pathogens and cleans bugs really well, and that's a great purpose, and I'm going to build a tissue culture lab, but it's not going to change what you already had, you know? Like, it seems like people think it's magic, and I don't mean tissue culture is bullshit, don't quote me on that. I mean, just this thing.
Ben said tissue, you just said it. Tissue
I did say it, it's written down.
Hold on,
I'm confused. It's so easy to edit.
How is the quality of it compared to the one before?
No.
Is it still the same?
Well, so I need to try another tissue culture lab to see if I got a bunk one also. If they're listening, you should really.
Bro, you have access to free tissue culture work.
Great. We were talking about that. We should read
okay, we can talk about that. We can talk about that later. But so the benefit of tissue culture isn't that it's a fountain of youth, but what it does is it slows down aging. Okay, and so if you have plants that when they're young, you put them in tissue culture and you keep them that way, they're going to age a lot less than if they're going through a whole bunch of different environments, you know, in millions of grow rooms, you know, over long periods of time. You know, I mean, they can go through some changes in tissue culture too, but it's not as dramatic as the age that happens. You know,
I
over
still
20
think
years
I
of
still
having
think the
to.
dog is as good as when you gave it to me.
I think that you might be right in some of that thing too, but that's also assuming that a plant is thinking almost, and I don't think that that's happened, or they would let me have Christmas off or whatever holiday I wanted.
No.
Because, right, like, I don't know if it's aging like that, or if it's just needs, if it needs the right environment at all times to be healthy, right? Isn't it health?
As Noel said way earlier, I think part of the problem with sour is that there was never just one sour. There was a group of hippies that had seeded weed, and they popped phenos that were really popular and got, you know, high pricing. And, you know, Swell had this, Vondo, AJ, all these different groups of people early on. And like now, kind of like Kush, there's probably 15 or 20 named sour cuts, all of which want to be like the first one.
All of which, in my opinion, that I've seen so far, aren't even as good as the baddest one. Then, you know, like I
That's
do
not
search
true
for
at
sour.
all. I saw some really shitty sour.
I just got here.
Terrible
to
sour,
Jersey.
dude.
I got here to Jersey, and I'm looking.
Are you from Jersey?
Here and there.
I'm from Jersey.
No, I'm living here now.
That's Joe Piscopo and somebody else.
Yeah, that's where my facility is in Jersey, and I've met some underground guys here and there. You know, traditional dudes here and there that have had pretty good sour. I saw a great Cuban haze. You know, Pressure Gardens. They did a great Cuban haze. They claim that their cuts are old. Those are the only two that like really stood out to me so far. Of like the old ones that I like. Oh, I remember these.
Well, I mean,
other sours like I saw a sour from Maine that was pretty good, but not as good as what we had then. Not
You
even
say there's all these sours, but that goes to like bag seeds and people not giving it out, I think, to like the guy that got it rolled across his table when he bought an $8,000 pound. But like the real sour, right? Like, and so I'm very fortunate when I get these plants that are so elite or whatever, I try to, you know, respect them. And so like when I wanted to write a description about Headband, I reached out to Noel. When I got this sour, I reached out to AJ and I reached out to Mike, Gaby. And the answers I got were so different that I couldn't even really make a sour description, right? Because like what Mike says it is versus what AJ says it is, and it was Mike's room, maybe AJ grew the plant. Like I just couldn't figure it out. I don't know all the other drama about the sour in New York, so I don't know those people to ask. But like, I think at one time there was one seed. You know?
I mean, there's one seed of a plant that would herm and make tons of seeds in the rest of the world, and you know.
So,
I mean,
you know,
Notso Dog used to sell.
Maybe I should say this too, just real quick, because I don't know if Noel knows this. Do you know, Noel, that the mother of sour from that crew that Ben was just talking about was called Diesel 2, aka Headband, right? And people used to claim that your headband cut, some people would claim that it was direct from New York.
Okay.
And that it was mother of sour.
See, this is always confusing to me.
So. My friend HWC, who I talked about, he came from New York. He came from Amsterdam, and then he landed in New York. And then he hated the drama about sours in New York. And then came to California, where I met him. And he brought his own sour that he had. It was also very good. You know, it was excellent sour, the top tier of sours at the time. But the fact that you say it that way, that there was a crew of people that had a headband, that could have been him and his crew, because he is the one that named the West Coast Headband, saying it reminds him of a headband he used to have in the East Coast.
Really?
I don't know if that's true or not.
I mean, because that was the whole thing, was like people would try to be like, oh, this is like this headband is the Chem NL that Weasel had. you know, that's like mother of sour and this and that and da 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 da. And so Gabby and I were going to do a thing on headband because there's literally like 6 headbands.
No genetic cross between those two. The headband that
I don't think
from the
so
West
at all.
Coast comes from SoCal, and it is OG Kush.
And it is OG Kush. That's what I thought.
And it's OG Kush.
Louis
No,
Armstrong.
We did not. We called it headband because we didn't want to be associated with the OG Kush people, because there was only one. There had been a murder, something like that, in that crowd somewhere, and so HWC said, I don't want to be associated with that. We're going to call it headband because it reminds me of strain I had in New York.
I would just like to say that I'm so stoked that story I told when you said was like 99% accurate.
Probably.
And I wasn't just talking out my ass, because I was just speaking on a 20-year-old memory of like what I was told when I got it, you know? And, you know, it's cool that it's that close. And it's also cool, I must say, that not knowing you, that you know 2 of my really old friends really well, you know? And, you know.
Well, like you said, you got the same music over and over and over again.
Indeed.
You know, it kind of, that's why I figured out. That's why they call it family, because you can't get rid of them. They're going to keep coming to the show, so are you. All right.
Gentlemen, I have to go get my kid.
Some you love?
See you, Notso Dog.
Yeah, so I have to bail. But it was lovely talking to you. It was good to see your face, Ben.
Nice
I hope
to
you
see
guys were well. Noel, it was awesome meeting you and
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
and chatting for hours. And Ben, I hope you come back on. And Noel, yeah, it just is as Gabby likes. We're all old now. We're fucking old.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, man.
I know. We're OGs. Let's go with that.
I don't feel like
Ben
we're
is still as
OGs.
much of an athlete as ever. He like runs marathons and shit all the time and posts about it. He runs marathons on like 100 milligrams of THC.
Nah, just.
But that's my
Don't
daughter
forget to-
calling. I gotta bail.
Don't forget to leave the app open.
I will. 100%.
Alrighty.
Later. Dude.
Later.
Anyway, I've had fun with both of you guys. We have done this for 3 hours. Before the podcast, I told Ben, he was like, how long does this go? I was like, 2-3 hours. He's like, 3 hours. I was like, yeah, you'll see. It'll be 3 hours before you know it. So
you guys are
joining,
some
Ben.
interesting dudes. Thanks for having me.
That was a pleasure, honestly. Gabby, thanks for having us.
we definitely should do it
Organizing
again with both of you.
Let's get more people.
Yeah, we could get the whole crew, dude.
Let's get the characters together. Let's assemble the fucking Power Rangers together and let's get at this.
Yeah, I mean,
It'll be fun.
help me arrange it and we'll do it. And
Of course.
Ben, we like announced to the world that we're gonna like actually hang out this week. So let's just do
Let's
it.
do it, Gabby.
Alrighty.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Don't forget, guys, to just leave the app open. Don't leave. Goodbye, everybody. We're gonna stop